Nice. Awesome, man. What's been up with you?
Nothing much. Just thriving out here in America. Loving Dallas, Texas. What do you like about being back?
Man, Jake's hamburger place in Jack's Uptown. That's what I like, and I like the Dallas Mavericks. There's a reason why I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
So I had a show called Access Vegas. I have a show in Las Vegas. I do call Access Vegas, and on the show, I try to get as many people from different viewpoints to come on the show. So I put out a thing on IG Story saying, I want to find liberal and conservative content creators to come on our election night special, right? And immediately I got 12 females that were all big models. Some of them were big models, and they were all like, hey, I want to come on the show. And every one of them was a Trump supporter. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound right. Something's wrong here.
How many nerdy dudes do you have? Just
What do you mean?
pimple-faced, 300-pound guys that just come on Access Vegas?
No, it's all females. So for Access Vegas, we'll have one. So for those of you who don't know, Access Vegas, well, I mean, if you're watching my channel, you should know this, but it's two. It's me and Rollo, and then we will have 6 females on there, and occasionally it'll be like 8 girls and like one guy, or 7 girls and one guy. And think of like what's the thing called? What's Bill Maher's show again? I can't remember what it's called.
Real time.
Yeah, Real Time with Bill Maher. So it's like it's a little bit uneven where it's like one guy and several girls. And anyway, so we're doing I try to go on the show, and
What's the heaviest girl you've ever had on there?
heaviest. Oh, there's been a couple girls that are like 170, 180. Like so hold on. They're not all, this is really funny that you're asking this. They're not all models. I'm really trying to get away from models and OnlyFans creators because
Yeah, I can tell that about you.
I'll tell you this, right? If you and Jake, let's say you guys started to do a panel show, right? And it got really popular. Let's just say all of a sudden you're getting 60,000 views an episode, and you were like, hey, we're just calling ladies who want to come out here, do this panel show with us, have a good time, whatever.
Is that what you guys were at? 60?
So we get, well, if you count Rumble and both of our YouTube channels, it's around 50 or 60,000 views. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Big
So
ups.
so I get maybe 14,000, 10 to 14,000 on my channel, and then Rollo will get another maybe 4 to 8,000 on the Access Vegas channel. But on Rumble, Rollo will like destroy. Like he has a pretty big following there.
Nice.
So we'll do and this is total views at the end of the week, right?
Yeah.
So
Fuck, I don't think that one of our,
are the mics working?
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
look like mine is.
Okay, what do you want to do here?
Give me a second.
Okay. Let me see here.
Can you see comments?
Yeah, comments on the top right there. See them?
Okay, yeah, it looks like it's all right now.
All right, beautiful. Mike, here, fix the mic for him. Got it. Beautiful, cool. Let me see. They're all seeing this on our chat. Beautiful. I still don't even have it on my YouTube yet, but it's apparently going. Anyway, so the thing is, I was kind of concerned because I was like, dude, am I just in some fucking echo chamber where I'm only seeing people who kind of agree with me and I can't see anyone else? Yeah, check my YouTube and see if you can see it, because I can't see mine. And
I think you are. I think we all are. I don't know anyone who I would say isn't.
okay, so that's my concern is, I did a video the other day about this where I was like, are we all just in an echo chamber that these algorithms have put together to keep us coming back because we keep seeing people who we agree with? We only see people we agree with on our social media platforms, and we keep getting a dopamine hit every time we come back. And there's somebody there who says something that we kind of agree with. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, so the thing is, I know that there are Kamala supporters somewhere in Las Vegas. Like every girl that was trying to come on there had a boob job and owned a gun. And I was like, okay, this is getting a little ridiculous. So I tried for 2 weeks to find a single female who was a Kamala supporter to come on the show. And I found one. It wasn't through social media. She's a comedian. And she's like, yeah, I want to come on the show. The day of the show, she gets food poisoning. She doesn't come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then another girl comes on, and she's politically progressive, but she doesn't have a fastball. Like she can't argue any of the points.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
That's how most people should be.
Okay. So then, like, after the election, I watched like Joe Scarborough and I watched Van Jones, and I'm like, wow, like their interpretation of this election is totally different from what I saw. I'm not trying to pile on. I'm just like, I'm listening to Joe Scarborough act like half the country's just racist bigots. Like I don't understand, and I'm not getting that impression. I'm just curious, like from your standpoint, what did you see why do you think the election happened the way that it did? Because you and I are not on the same side of the political aisle. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, most of this response is going to be a decline to answer. I think that it would certainly. I think this would be good for everyone, but I best to just speak for myself. Staying in a place of uncertainty can be very healthy, and trying to reach conclusions. I don't have any fucking idea why in that election happened or any of the other ones. Like, I was definitely surprised by the result to some extent. You know, all the polling indicated it was going to be close.
Let me ask you a question. If the election had happened the day after the assassination attempt, do you think like what I thought was going to happen that day is what ended up happening on election day? I saw 5-6 million votes, and then the more we got closer and closer to the election, it felt like, no, this is going to be really close. And then you saw the one poll from Iowa stating that Kamala had a 3% lead, and then Trump wins that by 13 points, which kind of validated Donald Trump's position on it, that this was sort of a ploy to make him look bad. And so I didn't understand, like, it was just very interesting to me when I talked to Kamala supporters. They were like, I can't believe anyone would vote for Trump. And I talked to one guy and he was like, I think it's an 80% chance that Kamala Harris wins. And I wasn't like trying to argue with him. I was like, where are you seeing this? And then I realized, no, his social media is feeding him that. And then my social media is feeding me something that was more akin to, like, after the shooting, the picture of Donald Trump with the blood on his face and he's got his hand up in the air. I was looking at that and I was like, I am a 6 or a 7 out of 10 conservative. Like, I am not a 10 out of 10. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, fuck, he's going to win. You know, like when you watch a football team that's on a roll that you're not a fan of, maybe you're like watching from afar. Like, I can still see the Chiefs are good, even though I'm not a Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like to me.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you know, whatever. He won by a lot. So, you know, oh shit. I guess I'd have to say that I was just wrong about it, but I didn't think it was going to have much of an impact.
How do I handle this?
I can fix it.
Okay, beautiful.
Hey, you want to talk into this one for a second?
Yeah, we are learning on the fly here. Interesting. Oh, okay. So the whole grommet goes in there. Beautiful.
I mean, hypothetically.
All right. Incredible.
You want to just pause this? Can we pause this?
Kind of. Just stay with us. They're watching us on. They're watching us live here. Yes. Marcellus did I vote for Trump? I wasn't going to, and then I saw that video of him saying that he was going to hold social media platforms accountable for ratioing people and having their accounts taken away, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go vote for him. Like that. And when I saw that, that was such a big deal to me. Do we know how to get this on? Oh, maybe screw it like this.
Yeah, but then the cord's going to get fucked up. You know what I mean?
Well, how did this happen?
Can I just turn off the video for a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. So it's still audio and everything.
Uh-huh. There you go. I think that's it. I think it's about as good as it's going to get. Right there. If I hold on to it. All right, cool. Beautiful.
Okay.
No, I did not. I was like, honestly, barely considering voting for Trump. And have you seen that video where he says that if people get ratioed, like the social media companies are going to have to offer an explanation about why you got your account demonetized or suspended, and then they have to give you an appeals process. And I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm voting like that.
Yeah, I don't mean to break your heart, but there's no way he's doing that.
I don't. Well, see, the problem is he does have the ability to put pressure on them to change certain things. We've seen Zuckerberg make changes to his platform based on government pressure. I don't know why we couldn't do the same thing here. And by the way, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. If you've had your account taken for no reason, you're going to support this idea.
Yeah. I've not had my account taken, so I don't know. But the category you're setting up, I cannot comment.
What do you mean?
You're saying if you're someone who's had your account taken, then you're going to support this. I would speculate that's true, but I've never had my account taken, so I can't say whether.
Well, consider this, right? So
what I would do at that point.
You're a political content creator, or you're a woman who posts like somewhat scantily clad, whatever, pictures, and you've had your account taken for any. Even if you're a flat earther or whatever, if you've done this and you've had your account taken, I just think there's a lot of people who would support that idea of at least, because I've always had this massive problem with the fact, like, so I know a girl, she lost her account for animal abuse on her account, and there were no animals on her account. And they just didn't even let her, like, they didn't even let her appeal it. It was just an artificial intelligence software just taking the viewpoint of the masses and then getting rid of her account. And I was like, that's horribly unfair.
Yeah.
And like, if I'm having my account taken away for bullying, and I never bullied anyone, but a bunch of people come together to report my account to get it taken down, then who's actually the victim of the bullying?
Sure.
And so that's why I've just had a massive issue with it.
That all sounds right. Being a single issue voter on accounts being taken down.
Oh no, I'm not a single issue voter. I mean, there were other things.
You said you weren't going to vote for him until he came out strong against the account loss.
I definitely supported him more than Kamala.
Yeah.
I had an issue with that. The other thing is, I think this is just a function of messaging. I feel like they did a way better job of pinning the economy on Biden than they did a good job of pinning Roe versus Wade on Trump, but they did not do a good job of 33 felonies and January 6th on Trump, as well as they did the job of pinning the economy on Biden.
Yeah, I guess whatever. It's not like you're a professional political messaging strategist, so it's a lot to ask this of you. But how would you?
What do you mean?
Like, what would you do differently to pin it on? Like, it seems kind of like you're definitely right. If the average voter just accepted the Democrats' version of events on January 6th, then I don't think Trump comes very close to winning.
Sure,
so
agreed.
It appears clear that the average voter rejected that. I don't know. I don't. Despite the title of this YouTube video, I do not wish to come across as a shrill lib.
I'm not a shrill conservative. Like, that's why I listen to your show every week. I talk about this all the time to the people. Like, you're one of the reasons why I started a podcast in the first place and I listen to you guys, and your viewpoints are especially on economics, are way further to the left than mine. But I always want to hear other people's point of view. I listen to Destiny, I listen to Jasmine Jafar, and I listen to Dylan Radigan and Tom Sosnoff. They have a financial podcast that I listen to. And then I'm just always it's just so crazy to me whenever I talk to my guy friends or like some other coaches that are in my space, and they're like, they can't even conceive that anyone would vote Democrat ever. And I'm like, well, but there's a lot of people who do. So what are we missing here? And then when I talk to my friends who are liberal, I get the same.
Yeah, it's all easy to retreat into that. There's a guy on TikTok that was really pushing, and I saw this 20-second TikTok clip, and it's all I've been thinking about since. And now I'm gonna, adopt that as my personality. But I'm sure it resonated with me because it felt so true. Just there's a book in the 1980s by a French philosopher called Simulation and Simulacrum, I think. And just making a lot of points about coming hyperreality, where you're going, like, the media sources you are ingesting create a reality that you make for yourself that feels more real than the world that you're living around you. So just if you read something on the news, and then you go and talk to your family, that the sum total of the things that you're reading on the news, you just weigh those more. Like how people would come to think that immigration's a big problem for people in North fucking Dakota. Like, it's gonna have nothing to do with their lives at all. But they're reading about it every day, so it has a tremendous amount to do with their lives.
Well, I mean,
determining their emotional
you say the
state.
same thing about abortion too. I mean, most people,
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
very few people in any, like in the course of your life.
Yeah,
but whatever.
I do think it's hilarious that Donald Trump is like against abortion, like the ultimate irony of that.
Yeah, where would you put the over under on number that he's paid for himself?
People get mad at me when I say this. My audience gets mad at me, but like, have you seen those videos of him like with all those like skinny white girls back in the 1980s. You really think he's against abortion? You really believe that? Like, come on.
It might have been a couple of years. Like,
I know, dude. My audience gets so mad at me when I say this, but it's like Donald Trump to me was, as far as Republican candidate, to me was probably a 7 out of 10. I thought nowhere near a 10 out of 10. There was a lot of problems with it. One of my biggest issues was him trying to impress that reporter by showing her the top secret documents. You remember this?
no, I don't.
So one of the felony counts was that a reporter recorded him, and he's explaining to her, because yes, this is very important.
That's
very
funny.
and he's like, you can hear the papers crumpling, and I'm like,
Cool move.
like he's trying to fuck. Like, he's clearly trying to fuck this girl. Like, and I'm like, with the top secret documents, like that to me, I had an issue with. And then the other part was the campaign funds to pay off Stormy Daniels, and then like. Bro, I don't care. Me of all people, I'm not going to judge you for sleeping with a porn star. But like the fact that he still intimates that he had her sign an NDA so he wouldn't have sex with her, like that part is crazy to me.
Yeah, and I've always like, he's obviously a hustler, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And would you agree that some of the other people that run in the same sphere as you are also at times hustlers?
Yeah, no, you're talking about the coaches? Hell
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
of course.
So on some, I guess solidarity amongst the hustlers makes some sense, but shouldn't you be able to see through?
I think the word might be better as salesman.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Here's the thing with the idea of a salesman is like there's some salesmen who I see are just
Like salesman bullshit you guys should be able to see coming, and he does a lot of it, and I wouldn't think that you guys would be persuaded.
If you want to know the honest truth, it had to do a little bit more with the way that the Biden Kamala campaigns were portraying what was coming in the future. Like MIT even does a study that shows that it was government spending that caused the inflation, and they weren't owning it, but they were going to fix it. And that, to me personally, that was one of the biggest issues for me. Is like if you wanted to say if Kamala came out and she said, "Hey, listen, we decided we want to close the Keystone Pipeline because we thought it was going to be an ecological disaster, and it caused there to be a fluctuation in petroleum prices, and we're going to own that, but it was for a good reason because we're trying to save the world." I'd be like, okay, I can. Now, at least you're taking ownership of it. I would have been fine. But for them to act like, no, none of this was our fault, I was like, you're going to fix inflation that was your fault, and you're going to act like it wasn't your fault. Then I have a problem with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I don't recall a
owner,
long list of things that Trump was like, guys, I messed up here. I just want to be honest with you.
Right.
I think that's kind of the job.
Well, but the other part was the situation at the border where I didn't feel like Biden was doing anything about it until like coming up right before the election. And then it was also concerning listening to Chuck Schumer say that his intention was to make all those immigrants legal, right off the bat. So that was kind of the issue that I had with that situation. And I just didn't feel like they addressed that at all,
Did you ever see whenever Louis C.K. went on Joe Rogan and was talking about the immigration issue?
No, I haven't seen that.
It went big because conservatives were mad about it because it was like the immigration position they're always trying to argue against. Louis C.K. actually articulated, so they were like, eyes lighting up. But that I agree with Louis. In the most one of the most unpopular takes he has, that I'm just not any better than anyone from the third world.
No, I totally understand that.
The fact that they have to have a higher murder rate in their country because we're trying to depress the murder rate in our country by keeping them out. That it seems fucked up, and like no one's running on that. You'll never say Kamala being like, I think we should have a higher murder rate morally.
Sure.
But I don't know what's like intrinsically better about me than them. I think that they're children of God in the exact same way that I am. They, I would assume that the average let me say, there's millions of Guatemalans, I'm positive, that love their family as much as I love mine. And I think that they should have all the same opportunities that I do.
So I think the issue there is where you could say, hey, we're all children of God and we all deserve the same right. One of the problems is, I think the argument would be, is it the responsibility of the United States to make sure that they all have the same opportunity. You could make the argument, yes, it is, but that's not what the Biden administration was trying to say. They weren't trying to say that these
not
people,
at all.
They weren't trying to say, well, these people have the right to come in because they deserve the same opportunity. They were acting like this wasn't a problem and that there wasn't crime coming across the border. And as far
They were
as
doing that for a while. They tried to do the bipartisan border bill. That
Yeah.
It seemed like in the last year, it seems like they were attempting to shore up what they viewed as political liabilities on that by taking action to try and I believe that border crossings went down a lot, right?
Yeah, it did. And I'll tell you the real issue here. This is not a me thing. This is more like what I saw as far as messaging and the result is that the people who had the biggest problem with illegal immigration wasn't like white people from Kentucky. The people that had the biggest problem with illegal immigration were legal immigrants. When I talk to legal immigrants in this country, they were the ones who had the biggest problem with the illegal border crossing. And if you look, especially when you think Hispanics that are in this country, a lot of them would be maybe second or third generation. For Donald Trump to get 41% of the Hispanic vote was crazy high. I thought, The other issue that I saw, this was a big one that I talked about a lot, was amongst African-American men under the age of 50, Donald Trump got 30% of the vote. That is, I believe, the highest number since Nixon. And, I've been on Fresh and Fit maybe 13, 14 times. And when I would look at their audience,
nice.
So first off,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, well, we do 3 shows a week. When I would go out there for a week, we just do 3 shows. So every time I would go out there, it'd be like 3 more shows.
Hell yeah.
So I go on Fresh and Fit, and at the time, like when they were at their peak, they were the number 1 super chatted show in the world, I believe at one point. I mean, they were doing maybe $100,000 a week, maybe that's an exaggeration, but something like that was super chat. They were constantly getting $100 super chats. And when I looked at their audience, it wasn't, even though this country's 12, 13% black, the Fresh and Fit audience was not 12 or 13% black. And Rollo, I asked him, I was like, Rollo, what percentage of your audience do you think is African-American? And he said probably 30, 40% is African-American. And I was like, and then if you look in that space, that whole manosphere, red pill space, it is totally politically conservative. There's like it's 100% in alignment with that. And I was like, I think this is going to cause a lot of African-American and Hispanic men to vote Republican in this next election at levels we'd never seen before. And the number of African-Americans that voted for Donald Trump in 2024 as opposed to 2020 doubled.
How much do you think that had to do with Kamala being a woman?
I think it had...
Not even just a woman, but like her,
I think, so this is an interesting point. So have you heard Richard Reeves and Scott Galloway?
No.
Okay, I would recommend, they're both liberals who, they called out why they thought Kamala was going to lose this election before he did. Scott Galloway is probably the best example. He said that what happened was the way academia and the media and the liberals were portraying men as like almost not being able to suffer. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've lived it, brother.
Yeah. So it's like these men were not, they were not told that their suffering was not unimportant. They were told that their suffering didn't even exist. Does that make sense?
Again,
yeah.
It's what I have every day of my life. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I want you to consider Cardi B, the famous story of her as a stripper. You know the one I'm talking about? She rolls one of her clients. She takes one of her clients and drugs him, and then she robs him. And she talks about it openly and almost like says, hey, this is what I had to do. And she's very much glorified for it. And then afterwards, Jennifer Lopez does a movie called Hustlers, where she does the same thing. Like these girls are making a living by robbing as strippers robbing their clients. And then this whole, bad bitch, I don't need a man energy is kind of emulating mainly from, in general, Beyonce, but then more specifically Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, Glorilla, like women like that. And like their messaging, well, while it was like not really upsetting to me, I kind of ignored it. I like Megan Thee Stallion's music because I'm from Texas and she's from Houston and she makes Houston beats. I really like her music.
Absolutely.
But then I'm like, but there's no way the DNC should have her speaking at a rally.
It was wild.
That's absurd because what you're doing is you're taking this group of men who already feel ignored and then you're further glorifying with Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and Glorilla. We don't need no man, and the glorification. Like,
do you think that's what they represent to the average person? I would just say
that is absolutely. I will say this emphatically. That is absolutely what they represent to black men.
Okay.
Absolutely, that's what they represent to black men, and that's what they represent to hip hop listeners in general.
Black men don't like Megan Thee Stallion?
I think they like Megan Thee Stallion. They don't want her making decisions. The idea of her, okay, Donald Trump, or not Donald Trump. Ready? Everybody close your eyes. I want you to consider 2004. George Bush is up for re-election, and he's doing a rally in Texas, and he goes, coming up to the stage, it's Bun B and Pimp C from UGK. No one would take that seriously, right? He goes to Tennessee, and it's 3-6 Mafia, Project Pat, and Juicy J. I can admire them as artists. I don't need their opinions on political ideology. Does that make sense? I don't need tax reform from Juicy J and Project Pat.
If you're planning a political rally, job one is just get as many people to show up as possible. And if you're saying, hey, Megan Thee Stallion's going to do a song, then that's probably going to juice the numbers.
Okay, Megan Thee Stallion, when you do the song, could you wear clothes and not shake your ass?
No deal.
Dude, but do you see my point, though? It's like you've already forgotten men. And so...
Yeah, I guess I'm just skeptical as like a big explanation. Any individual decisions at any particular rally, you'd have a real hard time convincing me that changed 1% of the popular vote.
I think her.
I don't think it matters in any kind of like measurable way.
I think the Megan Thee Stallion thing was measurable. I think there was a lot of people who were on the fence and.
Like you definitely don't think that Kamala would have won if she just skips that rally.
No, what I'm saying though is it's Megan Thee Stallion. It's Jennifer Lopez warning us about the bad orange man, and we're like, hey ho, why didn't you warn us about Puff Daddy? You know, it's like you were dating a guy who was molesting people, but you're trying to tell us about.
He had you sneak a gun in, and then you watch him shoot with that gun, and then someone else went to jail for it.
What are you talking about?
Shine.
You're talking about with the
J-Lo snuck in the gun that Diddy used to shoot someone that Shine took the rap for.
Right, but my point is, when she goes up there and speaks and she's crying, I'm supposed to take her seriously and want to vote for Kamala Harris.
About Trump?
Huh?
She cried about Trump.
Yeah.
She went up there and cried.
It's very disingenuous
yeah,
when you watch
I might want to go vote for Trump.
Yeah, but
I want to go back and vote for him.
But my issue is it Megan Thee Stallion? No, but is it Megan Thee Stallion, Glorilla, Cardi B, Beyonce, and J-Lo together? Yes, I do think that was enough clear messaging that side of the political aisle did not acknowledge that men could suffer or that men were having a hard time, on top of the statistics showing that since 2008, the number of men under the age of 24 who had never had sex had gone up 50%. The number of men, the bottom third of men, so the number of men under the age of 30 who had not had sex, and we're going back from like 2007 to 2021, had gone up from 12% to 26%. There was this bottom group of men that were being left behind, and regardless of who you want to blame, I'm not blaming Trump or Kamala for this, but like you do that, and then the representation that you have as a political party is we don't need no man, women, boss bitch energy, and men ain't shit. You have that at your political rally, and you have these angry men at the bottom, and then we're talking about Fresh and Fit, therefore being like the number one most super chatted podcast in the entire world. And I saw a formula for disaster that was looming. And the only person that was an academic, the only people that were academics that were kind of expressing what I was saying was Scott Galloway and Richard Reeves. Scott Galloway is a professor of, I forget, psychology. Richard Reeves is a professor he's a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. And he wrote a book called Of Boys and Men. And he goes over like one of these other crazy things was the American Psychological Association saying that traditional masculinity was harmful. And I was like, how traditional, and making no distinction about the way that therapy handles men and women. And again, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is if I'm a conservative man and I'm seeing this, or if I'm like a middle of the rung voter, if I'm a swing voter and I'm seeing this, it really does feel like not only are my problems not being acknowledged, they're not being not my problems, they're not being belittled, they're actually not even being acknowledged to exist. If I'm a man over the age of 40 and I'm divorced and I'm 8 times more likely than the average population to take my own life. If I'm far more likely as a man to be homeless, I'm far more likely as a man to be the victim of violent crime. Like there's these things that look just, it seemed like if there is a patriarchy, the patriarchy seemed to step on low status men more than anyone else. And their suffering just seemed to be completely ignored by one political aisle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
And I do think that is why they lost the election.
So agreeing with you, like I'm gonna quibble with like a tiny
No, go ahead.
portion of what you're
I
saying.
wanted you on here to quibble. That's
way
why
back
I
ago.
wanted to do this.
So I agree, with the large scale thing. I would just think that, as far as what sent that message, that's what Democrats are about. I don't think that J-Lo or any of the other people you named were involved really in sending that message. I think just Kamala herself screams that. Like
Sure.
just
Okay.
her presence,
Beautiful.
her aura.
Beautiful.
Everything about her. I was picking it up.
Do you remember?
She would not look at my life and be like, he's doing it right.
Yeah. Do you remember? She goes on Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper, and they have this conversation. It goes viral. Do you guys know of any laws that control men and their rights over their body? And they looked at each other with this like snide look on his face, like, yeah, I can't think of one either. And then there's tons of reaction videos of like, yes, bitch, selective service. Like I have to,
Yeah.
like I'm the one getting drafted. You don't get drafted. Like my body literally to go to Vietnam. And
it's been a long time, but it's Spectre. Whenever I had to sign up for the card as a youth, I was scared. Definitely.
And then the other thing was, for the first time in history, no U.S. military personnel are stationed in a war zone. And then and then there was a clip of these guys being like, then what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
And it was just like I don't think Donald. I think Donald
I would
Trump
like to know what they're doing. I wasn't under the impression we were under any wars. I saw the clips too.
You should. By the way, if we are under any wars, you shouldn't be under the impression of it. Like when we do these things, you shouldn't find out about them until 20, 30 years later. Like that's what the Selective Committee on Intelligence in the U.S. Senate and the Congress. That's what their job is to do. They're the ones who are supposed to oversight that thing, because simply, like for instance,
but whenever we're at war with Iraq or Afghanistan,
no. Once it happens, for sure. Once we declare war, but what I'm saying is, like small military actions, you're not supposed to find out about it. They're like,
I know these guys, busting into the Sudan real quick and getting out of there, Black Hawk Down type situations.
Yes, you're not supposed to know about that in real time. That's what people the Armed Services Committee.
Get to know about it.
Huh?
I think we should get to know about it.
I think you should get to know about it afterwards. But like speaking as a former U.S. military member, I don't want, for my own safety or for the safety of the troops that I serve with, in real time, the entire U.S. populace should not be getting information.
They should have sent me an email anytime you were moving. That's my preference.
Yeah. I mean,
I pay my taxes. I should get to know where Mike is.
Even during the Obama administration, when they killed Osama bin Laden, we don't find out about it until after it happens. And when we see
unless you're The Rock.
Yeah, we see the photos posthumously about what happens in the situations. But another bone to pick I have, where I thought the messaging was kind of weird. The idea that Donald Trump puts forward that Russia would not have invaded Ukraine if he was president. I hope none of you believe that.
Yeah,
that is utter and complete. The idea that Russia makes 25 to 30% of their GDP from petroleum, and that 50% of Germany's petroleum they buy from Russia, and that 35% of Europe's petroleum, I believe, they get from Russia, and that Ukraine was going to sell their own oil to Germany, and the idea that Russia wasn't going to invade, I really think you guys are short-sighted. There's no reality, I think, where Russia doesn't invade Ukraine, because that's what Russia does. That's like one of Russia's main hobbies over the last 100 years. Like, oh, we haven't invaded Ukraine in a while. Let's just do it real quick. So that one I also had a kind of an issue with from the Trump side. I thought that was kind of absurd.
That's fair.
Yeah. One other concern I have, and I know I've heard you talk about this before, is it seems like this government's sort of total lack of accountability toward what Israel does. It feels like they're allowed to just kind of do whatever they want, and there doesn't seem to be any oversight.
I'm against it.
Go expound.
I mean, it's a big topic, I see a lot of video evidence, much more than I'd like to see, that they're just fucking mowing down children out there. And anyone who's mowing down children, I want to say very clearly, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop it.
So I think, and you tell me if you agree with this, and we're a little bit off topic here with the election, but on October 7th, I think they have the moral high ground.
Yeah.
On October 14th, they have the moral high ground. I think on October 21st, they have the moral high ground.
And they're pushing it by then.
I think they have the moral high ground at some point, and then at some point they no longer have the moral high ground. At some point, we get to a place where
that hospital bombing that really blew up.
Okay,
and
so
the various like it
probably
wasn't-
before that even.
Yeah,
They have a
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
And then these doctors come out of Gaza, and they're. I want to say this real quick before we go forward. I have never had in my entire life a negative experience with a single Jewish person. This has nothing to do with Judaism whatsoever. Several of my clients, my roommate, and several of my close friends are Jewish. There's nothing to do with that. This has to do specifically with the Israeli government and the Israeli military. That's the only thing I'm making a comment on right now.
Of course.
So in this situation, they're attacking Gaza, and I can't imagine if I had a family member that was that was kidnapped, how incredibly motivated I would be to try to get my family member back. So that part,
Sure.
I want to say I'm very empathetic to that idea. My question is, what are you accomplishing at 24 months that you can't accomplish at 14 months? Because that's where we are. We're at 14 months where one military that has Bradley fighting vehicles, M1 Abrams tanks, and F-16s and F-35s is going up against another military force that has none of those things. And then also you're denying medical care and food to Gaza. I'm trying to understand what victory looks like in this situation. Because you even remember the first Iraq war, Colin Powell says you break it, you buy it.
I suspect I know what victory looks like for the
But
government.
here's the thing. I know what you're saying. But my question is, like, if we had, like, I want to ask Adam Sosnick there, because Adam Sosnick's one of my good friends, and he's Patrick Bet-David's co-host on PBD's podcast.
Okay.
And I want to say, like, what, as a Jewish person, what does victory look like to you? And then the other question I want to ask is, what would Benjamin Netanyahu have to do for you to say that's too far?
Yeah, good questions.
What would he have to do to say that's too far? Because my question is, would them starving children be too far? And if it is, and we're at 14, like at 14 months, something has to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then my whole question is, if you're going to starve them out at 24 months, what food do they have to then feed the hostages that you're trying to save?
Sure.
Okay.
There's a million things they've done that seems to really call into question their sincere concern for the hostages.
Yeah, I want.
If goal one was get the hostages, I feel like all of this would have gone extremely differently.
Yeah.
I think that goal one is the extermination of the Palestinian people.
Yeah, that's so. Here's the thing: if I'm, again, I have a lot of friends who are Jewish, and I actually have several clients that live in Israel. If I am someone who lives in Israel,
That makes sense.
for the betterment of Israel, I would want this to stop. Does that make sense? Not even
Yeah.
for
Oh,
the
yeah.
for the betterment of the Palestinians, of course, but for the betterment of Israel on an international stage, this is not good for them either
No.
to put themselves in this situation. So, like, again, just asking out of pure necessity for wanting peace and there to be less conflict. It's like they're not. It's not one of the things where, like, you notice I'm not having the same compunction against Russia and Ukraine. They're fighting each other. These are tanks going up against tanks. These are M1. These are Bradley and M1 Abrams tanks going up against Russian T-90s. That's what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's F-16 squadrons that Ukraine has that are going up against Sukhois that the Russians have. This is what we would call symmetrical warfare and a land invasion. What's going on in Gaza, I need, just as a military officer, some clear definition and explanation of, like, what victory looks like. And I need to understand what would going too far be.
You ever miss it?
Huh?
You ever miss it?
Yeah, I do. I miss being in the military a lot. Yeah, sometimes. I just like you had a mission, and I just imagine getting paid to, like, I know this is going to sound really geeky to some other people, but I got paid to do math for a living. I got paid a really good salary to fly over hostile
You missed
countries.
the math?
I love doing the math. The math was awesome. So I was for those of you who know, I was an instructor
Yeah.
navigator. So it was my job to do the math for the receiver. So one KC-135, one airplane flies up to another one and they collect gas. Often there's a boom out the back. My job as the navigator was to navigate and do the mathematics for the receiver and the tanker at the same time.
How many people in the plane most operation?
Four. There's only four of us, yeah.
Okay.
There's four of us. And then the receiver could have however many. If it was an MC-130, it could be full of troops. If it was a C-130,
yeah.
it could be full of troops. Just dependent. And then I believe, like, the AC-130 had like 4 or 5 when you were on there. The F-16 would have like 1. So, yeah, it was different stuff like that. But, I mean, I wish that there was a way for us to have this conversation and say, I am in pro-Palestinian, but not in favor of Hamas, and I am pro Israeli and not in favor of Benjamin Netanyahu, because that's what I would like to express. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah, and I just feel like I've just pissed a bunch of people off just by making the statement that I feel like is fair and balanced, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard to do this on YouTube.
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't know. The people in the chat expressing that why should we care? I'm with them. You know.
Why should we care? What do you mean?
Like who cares? Yeah, I mean, like if they're asking me, they should stop. Anyone conducting any war anywhere, if they're asking me, I advise them knock it off.
I'll tell you why you should.
But
this is a great question. I'll tell you why you should
beyond that,
care.
like, who gives a fuck? It's got nothing to do with my
I'll
life.
explain to you why you should care. Ready? Here's why you should care.
How it's gonna work?
We keep funding Israel's ability to, like, again, they didn't get those M1 Abrams tanks for free. Like, we gave it to them.
Yeah.
So we keep giving them keep giving them the ability and the mechanisms to which they can wage war. And just on average, just for like a thought experiment here, to defend your own land is about 3 times easier than to invade. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because of supply lines and protecting your flank and et cetera, and command and control. It's easier. It's harder to invade. They're considering and taking action in Libya and may potentially do it in Iran. They also, I wasn't aware until recently that Israel has F-35s, which means they could bomb Iran with impunity, and there's nothing Iran could do to stop them because Iran doesn't have the capability of stopping stealth aircraft. If that's the case, then Iran's number one trading partner or their best buddy in this whole scenario is Russia.
Yeah.
And whereas before I was very skeptical of this idea that we're going to start World War III, the idea, or what, even if it's a 1% chance that we could go into a thermonuclear conflict with Russia over this, is enough to where I think you should care. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
You understand? We gave F-35s to Israel. Like the asymmetry of power in that part of the world has now doubled.
I think that we're closer to a war with Russia than we've ever been, but I also think that since 1946, they've been telling us that it's just about to happen. And
agreed. No. Again,
it's hard to believe them.
Totally agree. But it's the same thing with people in the Book of Revelations keep telling us that the rapture's coming next week.
Yeah,
it's the exact same thing. We all think we're going to know. My point is, what we can't act on is the certainty of World War III. What we can only act on is the probability of it. And if that probability, like, what is a tolerant probability? Like, the world was not a fun, safe place in those 13 days that there's a standoff between the United States and Russia during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like, that's not a good place for the world to be in. Even though it did not result in World War III, that is not a healthy place for, U.S. foreign policy to be in a place like that, where we have that much of an acrimonious relationship with Russia to where we are threatening thermonuclear war. Does that make sense? Like, I just don't like.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't care, I think this is why you should care. Like, we're having a conflict between Israel and Gaza that is now all of a sudden the Iranians have stuck their dick in this thing, and because of that, the Israelis now feel the need to retaliate. The problem is Israel has like a 10x ability to retaliate versus the other way around. Those drones that came over Tel Aviv, they definitely killed some people, but like the amount of chaos and mayhem that Israel, if they chose to do so, could unleash on Tehran. I don't think you guys understand. They can bomb Tehran with impunity. I don't think people understand what stealth means. Stealth means that there is no possibility other than with like long wave radar for them to detect. All they can do is detect that there are stealth aircraft in the country. They cannot detect the location or get a missile lock on those stealth aircraft. For those of you who don't understand how stealth works, the F-35, the radar signature is so insanely small that the Iranians would be absolutely helpless. Now, is that then the reason why you go to thermonuclear war? I don't know.
Yeah, I just think all that stuff, you're talking about probabilities and things that might happen, whereas like I'm positive I'm going to buy eggs in the next week.
Yeah.
And I care very much about how much those eggs are going to cost.
Yeah.
I don't have to do any kind of like guessing at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just the people that say, like this is the shit that really matters, I agree with them.
So, well, then let's switch gears here.
Can I say one while you're on the Middle East topic?
Yeah.
Just to go back to all I'm thinking about is this simulacrum shit. So I just want to hammer that some more. There was a documentary by I've talked about him a ton, but have you ever seen like any Adam Curtis stuff?
I have not.
He's a BBC guy.
Okay.
It fucking rules. It's great. You love it.
Okay.
And he put out one called Hypernormalization. That's same general concept as the hyperreality stuff that they're talking about in the Simulacrum book. So he's his like kind of the story he uses to illustrate his point that like you're all just participating in a fake reality that feels more reality than the reality that's actually around you is Gaddafi. He's just using the story of Gaddafi of whenever the Lockerbie bombing occurs. The terrorists killed exploded a plane over Lockerbie, Scotland. In the 1980s, it made sense. It was politically inconvenient at the time to blame Iran, who definitely fucking did it.
Yes.
And it actually made a lot more sense. It would be a lot easier for everyone involved, the Western powers, if we could just say that this backwoods dictator, Muammar Gaddafi, was the secret mastermind who actually, you'll find, controls all the evil forces in the world. And if we could just, run stuff about how we're going to get rid of him, we'll be great. And then whenever it comes time for second Bush to invade Iraq, second time, they're doing this whole weapons of mass destruction shit, in the lead up to the Iraq war. And so they're trying to prove that their weapons of mass destruction stances have any meaning or impact at all. And the one guy they can find who will go in front of a microphone and be like, I'm just so scared of the Americans. I'm happy to give up all of my nukes that I promised I was about to have is fucking Gaddafi. Yeah. So the entire time he's been the same guy all the way through, a total fucking nobody. And I mean, like, in terms of world leaders. But like at one point it made sense for us to present him as like the evilest man in the world that's controlling everything. Yeah. At another point it was convenient for them to say this is a beautiful, proud man who cares about his country so much.
I mean, we did the same thing with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan with Russia. I don't. It's so this is because it gets where it gets really problematic because I do appreciate when you and Jake have these discussions about like the decimation of Native Americans in order to colonize North America, or the idea that all the times that the United States interdicted and threw over Latin American or South American dictators because it was pro U.S. foreign policy. It's hard because you're right. Like all of us live in flawed countries with flawed governments. You know, I think the best we can do is like today, kind of figure out what is the best way for the most of us to live in a safer world. And it's really one of the funniest things because I love Steven Pinker's book, Enlightenment Now, where he goes over like the other one is The Singularity is Nearer by Ray Kurzweil, where it goes over all these incredible advances in these different arenas. And like, so the murder rate per 1 million is down to like some outrageously low number in developed countries. And the world is a better place. Did you remember growing up, teenage pregnancy? Do you remember when that was a thing?
Oh,
especially here in East Dallas, like what a huge problem. Like, and it's just gone. It's just because of social media. It's like the teenage pregnancy. You remember drunken, like underage kids drinking and driving and getting into car accidents? Just gone. Like some of these problems we had are just vanished.
The one child policy in China had a much, much, much smaller impact on the birth rate than the rise of social media in China.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane. They made it illegal to have children and people kept on doing it.
Yeah.
But if you can stay home and look at your phone instead, like that matters way more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly. It's that part's pretty crazy. But like it's one of these things where the world I think is better overall. And I think a lot of people have an issue with it. I just don't think people understand how much suffering. There's been 110 billion humans that have ever lived on this planet. And before the year 1850, half the Earth's population died before the age of 5. Like several different times in our history, the mortality rate for women giving birth exceeded 10%, 25%. I mean, we don't know in all these cases, but there were high levels of like literally the top killer of women on planet Earth was giving birth when you consider that. And then do
you think the men back then were real fucking equipped to raise newborn children?
Yeah, I mean, it probably was pretty difficult. Although I do think we probably were in a little bit more of a communal environment back then.
Yeah.
The idea that, bro, this is a big one. Syphilis had a 58% mortality rate.
That's
before
insane.
antibiotics. Guys, I want you to think about this. No, you lying son of a bitches. You've caught some gonorrhea or syphilis at some point in your life. I want you to think about 58% chance you're going to die from it before antibiotics.
It's just fucking AIDS.
But basically, syphilis was AIDS.
1980s AIDS.
Bro, it's nuts. And then like all these other things, like the world was so much worse before antibiotics. This world was so much worse, and we've taken it for granted, and we've gotten so lazy because of how easy the world has got it right now. Right now, there's a few hundred people watching us on YouTube at the speed of light. They're watching us for free on their phones. The speed of light is 186,282 miles a second. This is being beamed up to a satellite. Sorry, flat earthers, there is space. Those are satellites. And it's going anywhere around the world at 300,000 kilometers a second and for free, and can be beamed to as many people as possible. And we take all of this for granted. The fact that like we have to wait. Oh my God, Southwest Airlines, they made me wait. They put me in group B30 and I have to wait to get on this plane that travels at 420 knots.
Yeah.
And like I landed here this morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's from Las Vegas, which the majority of people 200 years ago would have never traveled that far in their entire life.
Just would have had to walk.
Yeah, they would have. You ever watch 1883? It's a great example of like how bad it was.
It is nuts to me how much people did travel. Like I read, it's called "You Can't Win." There's a hobo back in the 30s named Jack Black.
Okay.
And in the 30s, he wrote his memoirs of, it was like 1900s whenever he ran away from home, and then just lived just stealing.
Yeah.
And being homeless.
Yeah.
And the shit he describes is just fucking nuts. I had something that was related to the thing that you just said, but now I forgot what it was.
Do you, coming up to the election, did your social media the algorithm, do you believe the algorithm put you in an echo chamber where you were mostly seeing people who agreed with your viewpoint?
Yeah, of course, right?
Well, do you remember specific examples of it? Because I can tell you, for me, I absolutely. It was to the point where
I don't.
Okay,
Really.
So I'll tell you. I did a debate, like kind of a debate with this guy Marcus Wolf and with Alex Playing with Fire, the PWF channel, right? Like a couple of days. So there was
Did you bust our heads open?
No. It was the Monday before
okay.
the election, and when I heard Alex say that he thought that there was a 70% chance that Kamala was going to win, obviously I didn't agree with him, but I was like, I don't think Alex is like crazy. Something in his reality told him that there was a 70 or 80% chance that Kamala was going to win. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's crazy. And we discussed it the next week. And I was like, is his Discover page and For You page just doing nothing but reconfirming his own viewpoints and to keep him coming back to the platform? And if that's the case, is my For You page and my Discover page doing the same thing to me? And I immediately just like started watching the Young Turks and MSNBC because I was like, yo, get me out of this echo chamber. I don't want to be stuck here in this echo chamber. It was also why I listen to you guys. I don't want to be in this echo chamber. Like this frightens the shit out of me that like I am, because I study enough evolutionary psychology and psychology in general to understand how susceptible we are to stimulus, all of us. I believe the correlation, if your parents are Catholic, your parents are Muslim, your parents are Jewish, your parents are Protestant, there's like an 86% chance you're going to be the same religion. And yet we all think we have free will. And we don't, right? Like it's things like that frighten me. And I just don't.
Yeah, it's an interesting question how you define free will, right?
I don't think there is any free will. I don't think there is.
Yeah, I definitely for most of my life have suspected the same, but it's hard to be sure. And like, you can't, like, my parents are born Catholic. I could change to Muslim right now if I wanted to,
Yeah, of course, you could, because you live in a liberal democracy, you could, hold on, Michael is woke now? I'm so confused. I'm reading these whole things. It's pretty amazing. Like I literally did a show. It's so amazing that you guys think that. So there's this really funny thing. I think you'll enjoy it. There's a bunch of people who, there's this content creator. There's a bunch of content creators who don't like me. And so they just lie about me incessantly on social media.
Dude, I love my haters.
You do? Do you have a lot of them?
At times, yeah.
So they make these videos. And I really probably shouldn't say this out loud because I'm going to get in trouble with my team. But there's this one creator who makes videos about me, and every time he makes videos about me, we get more sales. Like I probably made $200,000-$300,000 off this guy's clients.
Yeah.
Because every time he makes a video, and initially he was lying. So
Positive or negative, it's all attention.
yeah, for sure, it's all attention. So I'm 6'1". I mean, you know that because you stand next to me all the fucking time. And so these guys, I mean, you've seen I take my shoes off, but the thing is,
You guys arguing about height is my favorite fucking thing.
So it's there's Reddit articles, all this kind of stuff saying that I'm like 5'8" or whatever. And I was
5'8".
Yeah, what I was going to do was
like, is that devastating?
No. Dude, here's the funny thing. If I was 5'8", I'd make more money.
Yeah,
I'm a dating coach. Because I'm a dating coach.
Yeah.
If it was the
I'm
same
5'8" and I still fuck.
Yeah, exactly. If I was
Find
5'8",
out how I do it.
like at first I was like, this guy's lying, but then I was like, nah, I don't really care. It's like, it's so funny because my military ID and my driver's license both say that I'm 6'1". So but then I started thinking about it. I was like,
how deep does this conspiracy go?
No. But when I started thinking about it was like, well, if he keeps making these videos about me, then I keep getting more clients. Literally, I'll get a message from my sales team, and the sales team will be like, hey, yo, we got another video, blah, blah, blah. And this guy hates I won't even say the content creator's name. It's like, this guy hates the guy, so he signed up for the program just because the guy made a video about you. And I was like, damn. Like, after the 30th or 40th time this happened, I was like, and I was talking to my attorney and I was talking to my business partners, and I was like, oh, dude, just let the 5'8" thing just go. Like let them keep saying it. And so what I was going to do was I was going to fly one of the guys out, and I would say, hey, look, you put up $100 and I'll put $100,000 in escrow. And if I'm not 6'1", you get to keep the $100,000. But if I am 6'1", I get to humiliate you on YouTube. And of course, no one's taking me up on this. But I know what I was going to do is go to like a 7-Eleven. You know how that thing when you walk out the door that shows how tall you are? I was going to go there barefoot, and I was going to show that I'm 6'1".
He would just be faking that, folks.
Yeah, of course. They'd be like, oh, it's
video
a CGI.
tricks, green screen.
The point is, if I did that though, then they'd stop talking about it. And so when I talked to my team, I was like, I have to stop doing that. So that's why I keep it going.
No, print shirts.
Huh?
Print shirts.
Print shirts? What do you mean?
You just have a line of T-shirts highlighting the controversy.
It's really funny. I've had several
How tall is Michael Sartain?
I've had a bunch of people come up to me in Vegas. They'll walk up to me and they're like, and it's always the same thing. It's like, oh wait, you really are 6'1". It's so like you see the look on their face. They come up to me like, oh, you really? Oh wow. And so me being 6'1" actually kind of hurts me as far as being a dating. Like, it is not a good thing for me.
Maybe get the leg shortening procedure.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll get a leg shortening procedure, and then maybe that'll help out. Anyway, the funny thing is, like, I used to get angry about it because, you know, as a military officer, I was like, dude, this guy's accusing me of lying, and I haven't lied about anything. But then it was like I saw how many new clients I got from this, and I was like, yo, roll with all of it. Like, anything you want to say. The ones who say that I pay women to hang out with me, whatever. They're all so great because what it does is it causes people to go down the funnel, and they'll try out my free product or whatever.
100%.
And then they'll be like, oh, wait, what he's saying is true. And then they see, like, just again, if you go to my page, MLMmentoring.com.
Of the people that hear your name under any context, a certain percentage of them are then going to subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah. And
I'm sure that the percentage is probably better. If it's someone saying this guy's the greatest, then you should definitely subscribe. Than if it's someone, but it's still, there's 8% that's going to be signing up as a result. So just the highest number of people you can get to say your name the most number of times is the only game.
I will say one other thing I did. I'm going to show you something that's pretty funny. So I left this video up. I don't know if I've ever showed this to you. So so what happened was on my birthday, I had about 30 girls show up. Right, you can see right there.
Nice, yeah.
And when the nightclub came to me and they said, hey, we want a photo with you and all the girls, so I need you to position all the girls the way you wanted. And the girls I was closest to, I put down on the floor next to me, etc. And this is totally framed. Like, you can tell the way.
How long does this take?
It took a while to do it. Anyway, while I was doing it, we were waiting for the photographer to show up.
Are these parties fun?
When we were doing it, I was waiting for the photographer to show up. So someone rolled on me making this video, right? And you can see that the girls are all posed. If you guys want to go onto my Reels post on my Instagram, and I got hundreds of messages. I got most of them were positive, probably 300 positive messages and maybe like 100 negative messages. But I just started, like, I left it up and I was like, oh, these people don't understand. Like, we were just getting ready, and everyone who left a negative message, I just blocked them because I realized they're just bad leads. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
because what happens, for those of you who don't know, so like, if you guys go on my Reels, you can see the video right there. And I left it up there specifically so that people would make comments so that I could block them. And one of the things that happened was my impressions and our conversion rate started to increase because I started getting rid of bad impressions. So when you guys post something on social media, reels are actually not a good example of this, but like grid photos. And when you post stories, it goes to about 2% of your audience. If that 2% includes either fake followers or it includes like guys who are trolls, haters, like people who think that I'm 5'8", whatever. When it goes to those people, it actually hurts your engagement. Not so much on YouTube, but more so on Instagram. Then by getting rid of them, then your impressions now go to more qualified people who are going to subscribe to your podcast.
That makes sense.
So that's just been the theory that I've done. The other thing is Instagram has this new feature where when it says it shows dead followers that don't do anything, and you can push a button and delete tens of thousands of them. And I've been doing that. I've been trying to like get my number lower. I would rather have 100,000 followers that follow me every day than 200,000 just for like a vanity metric. So I've been trying to get rid of a bunch.
I'd rather 10 hard-dicked warriors than millions of, faceless, shapeless.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of bots. Nah, the TC army. I'd go to battle with those 10.
What are some of the criticisms you get?
Whenever I'm talking about having haters, it was mainly I used to be on a radio station. While on the radio station, I stuttered, and then they clipped the stutter and played it a bunch. And sometimes I'd be like, "Hey, do you have to play it that much?" And then my mentions would just flood with people saying that I should kill myself. And that was my only experience with that kind of thing. It was crazy. I'm glad that I had it at all. Like it's definitely a major feature of life today. Strangers yelling at you, and you see famous or not even that famous people go through it all the time. So I'm glad to have the context and everything.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was. Just because I often do, listening to Eminem's second major studio album, the Marshall Mathers LP, and he addresses all of it. Like the album is just about having haters, and I don't know, the album's exploded in popularity since. Like it's probably its most popular point was when it was released, but it's amazing how like enduring it is because this experience that he was having, where people were hitting the fucking roof, writing letters, having campaigns to try and silence him.
Really?
Is something that people, you remember that from whenever we were younger.
I wasn't I wasn't really into Eminem. I was listening to Slim Thug and UGK.
Yeah, maybe
boys, Ghetto Boys.
If you disagree, then I guess it's going to undermine my entire thing. But I feel like one of the dominant stories of like 1999 or whatever was just how much every fucking mom in America hated that their kid was listening to My Name Is.
I do remember that story. Yes.
Yeah. And that is, to me, one of the biggest examples of positive and negative. It's all attention. Like whenever his daughter recently announced her pregnancy, and I saw that covered on Good Morning of fucking America.
Yeah.
And all the Good Morning America hosts were like, "Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for Slim Shady." And every single one of those people earlier, would have said that he should be put to death for the things that he's saying on these albums. And no one remembers that anymore. Everyone knows who he is. They know who he is because he was talked about constantly in this extremely negative fashion. And then time passed, and everyone forgot why they knew who he is, but they still knew who he was, and now he's just one of the most famous people.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I just did it right here again. I found somebody who was like clearly like working for the stuff, and I'm just gonna like the people who say the stuff that is just blatantly untrue. They're just bad leads. They're like the problem is they don't. I think it's a little different for me because I'm a performance coach. I need people who are willing to take action and perform. I don't mind that I have haters, especially the ones who are like, "Hey, your audio's messed up. You should interview this guy. You talk too much." As long as it's not personal attacks or like blatant lies, I don't really have an issue with it. But you're right. It's like becoming that. Consider The Wolf of Wall Street, right? There's a video where there's a movie where he punches his wife in the stomach. He kidnaps his own kid. He doesn't deny doing this, by the way. And then you would think that would get him like permanently canceled. But if you were to look up sales trainers in the United States right now, he's near the top. Like the amount of money he's made.
People have heard of him.
He's probably, I'm saying he's probably wealthier now. Like consider like the situation with like Logan Paul, the whole Nina Agdal thing where, they showed pictures of his fiance with hundreds of other men, and it made him more popular because of that whole thing happening. And the situation with O.J. Simpson.
90% of what people are receiving whenever they get is just his fucking name. Like you just now you're thinking about him. Whatever opinion you had about him before, you probably still have that. That one story didn't really make a big difference. So now you're just thinking about him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another big one. And then the OJ Simpson getting offered, from my understanding, like almost like millions of dollars to host a fantasy football podcast.
Oh yeah.
Caitlyn Jenner killing someone and then 4 months later being named Woman of the Year. Donald Trump having sex with a porn star and then being elected president, and while his wife was pregnant. All these things, it feels like you're right. It's just any attention at all is what gets you. It's just good enough. Well, do you remember? I mean, I don't know if you're old enough. Remember the Iran Contra affair? Like,
Of course.
well, Colonel Oliver North was supposed to be disgraced for this. And
Yeah,
like,
it was one of the best things that ever happened in his life.
I mean, seriously, you would not have any idea who Colonel Oliver North was, and he's a contributor on Fox News.
Of everyone who was a colonel in the U.S. military at that time, do you know one other name?
Exactly.
It's just him.
It's just, it is really crazy. Like, you do stuff like that. And then, like, even to a smaller extent, Neon having his girlfriend cheat on him, Neon, Aiden Ross having his girlfriend cheating on him, the Adam 22 situation where he basically loans out his wife to have sex with Jason Love, the porn star, and they film it. And apparently, from my understanding, the most lucrative video in the history of OnlyFans because of it. So it's like the negative publicity definitely does help. But it's just a really interesting situation. Ty Lopez, how much money he's made with all the people like calling him names, all these things that have happened. And it's any kind of this attention economy, like any kind of attention you get, even if it's horrifically bad, like I'm telling you right now,
any negative attention is just a function. Like there's a number at which, like, if enough people have heard of you, it's guaranteed that some of them aren't going to like you. There's no one who's universally liked. If you're getting approval numbers of like 90-10, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who, 700 million people have heard of you, and then you've got these great approval ratings, that means that 10% are going to not like you, so that's what, 70 million people?
Yeah.
And you're going to fucking hear about it. So, like, it's just residue of success. You better have haters, or else no one's heard of you. Which, like, that might be better. I would like to have lived a life where I didn't give a shit if anyone, because I've come to suspect, this is the thought thing I've been working on for a couple of years, that if you just got enough attention as a kid, if like your family knew, if you just had the parents of the year and everything, then you don't have this giant gaping hole in the middle of you that you have to fill with strangers hitting fucking like on your YouTube page. That's not me.
I think the extroversion had more to do with it with me. Like, I actually like doing public speaking. But I think the other part was the first maybe couple hundred guys that went through my program that told me thank you. A lot of the guys being like, "Hey, thank you for sticking with me." I just told you about a very prominent individual who just joined my course.
Recently. Big ups.
There's a few Ivy League professors. There's several fighter pilots that are in the course, and they come to me years later, and they're just like, "Hey, man, thank you for sticking with me." And I think for that, it's worth it to me to take on the negative publicity. And for those of you who don't believe what I'm saying, just go to moamentoring.com. Just look at all the testimonials. There's hundreds of testimonials. You go to moamentoring.com/testimonials. There's 168 video testimonials. So it'll show like a GIF, and then it'll literally show each one of them. And yes, we do put the Asian and the Indian guys up front because those are the ones that have like the most, the guys that have the most objections. And we also have one client who's 4'11", who's like crushing it with women.
If I help these guys,
that's my point. Exactly. So like for me, that part keeps me motivated. But it is one of these things where like I also have come to the full and complete realization that I really have no privacy. My ex-girlfriend, when we split up, one of the things I wanted to do, we had an agreement that I was going to stop putting her in any of my content, because from this point forward, what I tried to explain to her was, when we broke up, I was like, just so you know, it's like when a guy Googles you, they're going to see hundreds of pictures of us together. And that's going to be something you're going to be defined by. And I don't want, I want you to have a happy life. Like, I'm pulling for her. I said, by the way, all my exes, if you're watching this, I think you're all wonderful people. I wish nothing but the best for you. And if you put your mind to it, any of you guys can accomplish anything you want.
What about that one, though?
That one, not my most previous one, but I've had a few crazy ones. But wish you nothing but the best. Anything you put your mind to, you can accomplish. That's all I'm going to say. One of my, it's really interesting. One of my exes, We only had a falling out because her husband didn't like me. And yeah. Yeah, her husband, when she started seeing someone else, her husband liked me.
Okay, so this is after.
Yeah, so they've broken up. And since then, we send each other memes every day.
That's nice.
And I'm very happy that I can be friends with her. Like, I really, if she's watching, I hope she knows this, but I'm just happy. I don't care if we're ever in the same room again, ever again, but I'm just very happy that this person that I spent 2.5 years with, I can be friends with them again.
Nice.
Finally, it just makes me happy that, like, I know that they're in a happy, healthy place. And I think that's really cool, because some of my exes, I can't do that because their exes don't like me, or because we ended in an acrimonious way or something like that. So that's, I would love to be able to be friends with all of my exes, because every one of them, you ever meet two people together and you're like, you guys can both do better? You know what I'm saying? Like, they need to break up because they can both. I've always felt that. I was like, we got together because it was a good time, and when we broke up, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Do you think you have any fear of commitment, Mike?
No, I don't. I really wanted this last one to work. Like, this last one, I was like kind of seeing it, like maybe this would work, but she wasn't really. Here's what I have a fear of. I have a fear of my romantic life overshadowing my professional life, and my professional life means everything to me right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I mean, I guess if you're doing, I don't know. I want to be open to all possibilities, but do you think that that's the most fulfilling? Like, do you think that the path to fulfillment is having the most successful professional life or having the most successful personal life?
Because, well, to me, there's very little difference. And because my professional life is me specifically helping other people, I think my professional life means more to me than I think, like, if I was an accountant. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Definitely.
I think
Definitely.
like if I was an FBI agent and my job was specifically to capture people who, touch little kids, then I would probably my professional life would probably mean more to me than my personal life. Does that make sense? So for me, because I have with my own eyes witnessed men tell me they were going to take their own life and then decided not to because of our interactions, that to me is motivation enough to where I do not want to stop with my professional life means a lot to me.
I do just think that what you're doing, there's I hope you'll allow this, a tiny whiff of a father figure to it, And I wonder if it'd be more fulfilling if you just, had a beautiful son that you were raising to be the perfect man.
I will say this. There's a certain, we'll call her like world famous fitness model that I've been seeing on and off for like 4 years. And I asked her the other day to just have kids with me.
Yeah, what'd she say?
She said she joked. She thought I was kidding, and I was like, "No, I'm not kidding." I'm like, "I'm 47. Like, let's do this. Like, you have she has the most amazing genetic. Here, I'll show you. No, don't say who it is. Don't say who it is. But I literally show you the messages.
The lady from The Biggest Loser. Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's very open to the idea, but she's like. Yeah, I mean, she would kind of like have to like put her modeling career on hold in order to do this.
I mean, it'd be a different kind of modeling.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So I'm very open to the idea of having kids, but I don't know that I'm open to the idea of a traditional marriage that is governed by the state.
See, now I'm back to what about your commitment issues, Mike?
Well, no, I'm fine with marriage. I just don't want marriage by the state.
Yeah, so just anytime I hear people say that kind of stuff, it just all sounds to me like, you can't say the thing you really want to say. No one respects people who are like, I have this whatever thing that happened in my life that caused, but like lots of people obviously do have commitment issues. I'm sure that everyone, to some degree, people in marriages, want to bolt them at times. So it's something we all deal with as people.
Okay.
But I feel like it's not something it's super impressive to own up to. And that it's much easier to do. What could you possibly care about filing something with the state? Like either way, who gives a fuck?
This is a great question, and we can go down this road. So one of my good friends is James Sexton. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's a divorce attorney, very famous divorce attorney, lives in New York, and he has
nice.
He was on Soft White Underbelly, went super viral.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he went on Lex
big
Friedman.
Soft White Underbelly fan.
Are you? Yeah, he went on Lex Friedman also recently. And so we had this discussion, and one of the problems is the more successful you become as a man, there's a point where there's some studies that showed, David Buss talks about this in his book, Evolution of Desire. There's a point at which a woman gets to her end of her reproductive career where she's far more likely to file for divorce. This is where the point at which she can have the last kid. There's also some data kind of showing, so there's a 56% divorce rate in this country. There's some data that this is a really, really troubling piece of data. So number one, 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women first. And number two, when women are surveyed, they're saying, well, it's the man's fault that we got a divorce. So if you wanted to, control for that, the only thing you'd have to do is say, look at gay men and lesbian women and look at the divorce rate. And the divorce rate for gay men is 28%. The divorce rate for lesbian women is 78%. Remember I said 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women. So when women don't have men to blame, they're filing for divorce. If you are dating a man who's worth 10, 20, $100 million, for you to stay in the relationship, you're basically staying in the relationship foregoing $50 million. And 97% of alimony is paid from men to women. So that is why I don't want to include the state.
Yeah, no,
that's why I don't want to include
I hear
the state.
you on all that, but like, I mean, you could just sign a prenup, right?
Yeah. So that's also another thing James talks about. Prenups can always be thrown out. And also, not that I would ever do this, you can't prenup children. Just so you understand that. Like, you can't prenup your way out of it. If you have children with someone, you are on the hook for their care until they're 18 years old, regardless of where you are. And by the way, I think that's the right way. You should take care of your kids, not because the state tells you to, and not because your wife tells you to. You should take care of your kids because it's objectively the right thing to do.
Just don't be a piece of shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you have the state, basically, you understand the number one way women become millionaires is divorce. The number one way, but it's not even close. The number one way for women to become billionaires, in fact, I think with very few exceptions, the only way women become billionaires, like J.K. Rowling would be an exception to this.
I don't think anyone divorcing you is becoming a billionaire, man.
Again, but what I'm expressing the incentives.
Yeah.
The number one way, or pretty much almost the only way that women become billionaires is either through inheritance, like the Walton kids, or through divorce. Mm-hmm. And again, there are exceptions. Sheryl Sandberg and like J.K. Rowling would be exceptions to that rule. They were women who became billionaires not through either one of those methods. But it's definitely problematic.
And don't you look at stuff like that and a little bit of you, like, I'm all the way with you on the earlier topic we were discussing of Kamala Harris denying the suffering and of men. But like, whenever you hear that stuff, like, it's not like they didn't want to be billionaires, and it's not like they only wanted to be billionaires by divorcing a rich man.
Yeah, I think the billionaire thing
It seems like we're keeping them from being billionaires.
Oh, so you think it's like a patriarchal society that doesn't allow them to become billionaires? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so here's my answer to that, because I had
that was a bit of a curveball. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to totally
fine.
change
I like this topic.
Okay.
The issue is this, right? So I don't argue against the idea of there being a patriarchy. What I say instead is, if men and women are surveyed on this, if women find men who are more assertive, more aggressive, more dominant, and more ambitious to be more attractive, and they do in every culture. Mm-hmm. If they find those men to be more attractive, then and those are genetic.
On average, certainly women who don't. But
But if they find those proclivities to be more attractive on average, and those things happen to do because of genetics in general and testosterone specifically, and you keep having sex with those men, you're going to have babies that are more assertive, more aggressive, more dominant, more ambitious. And of course, the end result of that is a patriarchy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but there's lots of times that I commit a series of actions that leave me with consequences that I then am like, well, this fucking sucks. Whoever did this string of things was a dummy, because now I'm fucked. And it was me that did all those things.
For sure.
You can still, I'll fight to the death for my right to complain about that.
Okay, so there's a couple other pieces of data. So number one, women keep rewarding these patriarchal attributes that then create a patriarchy. They keep rewarding these men with sex. This is not in dispute. This is absolutely this is one of the most easily replicatable features of evolutionary psychology. Is this women's attention to attunement to man status? That's number one. The other part was in egalitarian nations where women do better than men. So I believe in certain parts of Scandinavia, women under the age of 30 actually make more money than men. In those countries, what you should see is women desiring men who make less money, because, or not desiring men who make more money than them. And what we see in those situations is the opposite. So even when women are in situations where they are not kept from financial advancement and economic advancement, they still want men who make more money than them. The average is about 1.68 to 1.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is there's a genetic proclivity here also for women to want to be with men who are taller, stronger, faster, and wealthier than they are, even when they're given economic opportunity.
Yeah, so let me hit you with this. What if we just agree from the outset that the problems women face were 100% created by the poor actions of women in general? But I'm not saying that's what your position is. I'm saying
Charles Darwin, yeah.
Let's just stipulate that.
Yeah, okay.
That this is their fucking fault, collectively. Yeah. You would still, as an individual, be pretty frustrated, even if it was at other women. If you're working at AT&T doing your absolute level best and fucking idiots who got dicks are passing you by left and right because, you're in this situation. I'd become
you
the
say
joker.
that, but like 30%, like 60% of college enrollees are female, and 30, like of psychologists under the age of 35% of them are male. Like there's so many industries right now where women are like lapping men. There's
not making them billionaires.
There's books and books and books about, but could it be because men have 17 times as much as testosterone as women? To become a billionaire, it's not just work harder. You have to completely and totally exploit.
You think the difference between me and Bill Gates is he's got more testosterone? I don't know.
I think it's that.
I'd fucking dust that fool. Tell him to line it up right now.
Take some of his serum. That's funny. The third one, and this one, I had a debate with this feminist a couple weeks ago, and it went so poorly for her that she deleted the debate. But this one is really rough.
Just out of your crushing feminists.
This one is like really, really rough, and it's so bad that I almost hate saying it because it crushes a feminist narrative so badly. Forbes does a survey where they ask working women who are in the workplace who have a child. If you could, would you aspire to be in a situation where you stay at home and be a stay-at-home mother? And 84% of them said yes.
Yeah,
and
I want to be a stay-at-home mother.
Yeah, but you can just hear feminism just crumbling because the belief, because these are the women who had it all. The dream that was sold by feminism is you're a mother and you're out there in the workforce. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you're a mother and you're out there in the workforce, but you would rather be a mother and basically take a patriarchal, normal, tradcon role in a household by being the caretaker of the children, and you're choosing to do so of your own volition, crushes ideals in feminism. 84% of women saying that. And so this goes back to what I'm saying before. I'm not blaming anyone, but the idea that this whole thing is just men consorting with other men to create a patriarchal structure to keep women down is something that was fed to us by television. It is not. I never got my patriarchy meeting. I don't have my patriarchy card in the fucking mail to go to my patriarchy union due. I don't have patriarchy union dues. I don't believe there's any sort of conspiratorial. If this has happened, it's due to negligence. Just like the fact that right now 60% of college enrollees are female, 68% of the graduates are female. You are more likely, I'm trying to remember what the numbers were, but it's outrageous numbers. Like you as an African American man getting a graduate degree, the likelihood of you doing that was like astronomically low compared to like any woman. And when you see this, but yet I'm told that the reason why women aren't millionaires or billionaires is because of a patriarchy in every possible way. Even the NBA, supplementing the WNBA in every possible way. Title IX. There's so many interactions showing that when women are given these advantages, they even 84% of the time they prefer to be in a role where they're with a man in raising a child. And so that's the thing that I'm saying is like, I don't think it's as simple as male patriarchy holding women down. I mean, it's a complicated issue, but I definitely don't think that's the answer. And when I talk to people, especially feminists, their answer is so reductive. Their answer is somehow that men taught children to be toxically masculine, while at the same time, 78% of teachers are female. And then like something in the mid 40s, percent of children born in this country are to single family households, and 80% of those are single family mothers. But yet it's men who created this page. Like it's men who created this toxic environment.
You want to see that coming out of my mouth, dude?
Yeah.
The number one enemy of women is other women. You should see some of the shit that you guys say about each other.
Yeah, I've said this before. The biggest misogynist, two things. The biggest misogynist I've ever met in my life, without a doubt, is a Southern fried country chicken fried Baptist woman. She is the biggest misogynist I've ever met in my life. She is using judgmental. She's sitting there dressing with her boobs pushed up to her neck in her sundress, talking about other women being whores. I have never seen anyone more judgmental than a female. No one. And the other thing is,
my grandma's got a women in the workplace rant that I like to prompt her to uncork every once in a while.
You know what we need is
she's not in favor.
Your grandma and my brother. We need my brother.
Yeah.
The other one is, like I said before, there's no one who has a antipathy for illegal immigration more than legal immigrants. Those are the ones who really, really don't like illegal immigration. So I think a lot of people don't grasp that concept. Man, we are getting a lot of people in the chat here.
That's nice.
Yeah, that is a
shout out to them.
Guys, real quick, for all of you who are watching this, please do me a favor, and I want you to subscribe to IJB. It's Just Banter Podcast.
Yeah.
The reason why, guys, I want to let you know something. So for me, yes, I am center right. I'm a conservative. I listen to them all the time because I want to know if what my beliefs are completely. We'll talk about this one. There's another one of my beliefs here in a second. I'm curious what you think. But I want to know if my beliefs are just completely off the rails, or if there's any other logical reason for me to not believe in what I believe. Does that make sense? So that's why I listen to them. That's why I listen to, like I said, I listen to It's Just Banter. We
don't even talk politics that much. I think people are going to show up thinking that that's all we do.
It's still funny stuff.
We talk bullshit.
I listen to the Dumb Zone with Jake and Dan.
Yeah.
And I listen to, like I said, Truth or Skepticism with Dylan Radigan. And I listen to one of my content creators I enjoy listening to. I don't agree with her most of the time, is Jasmine Jafar. We become friends. So I try to listen to people who I don't agree with as often as possible. Because I don't want to get caught in an echo chamber. And the other thing is, these guys are really funny. Their podcast is hilarious. So you guys should definitely check it out.
Nice, man.
So guys, go to Spotify. You guys are on Spotify and Apple Podcast?
I think so. The Spotify link is always spotty.
Yeah, you guys should check out It's Just Banter. The one I want to ask you about that I'm having a hard time seeing both sides of is voter ID. So apparently there's this one survey that shows that 11% of Americans would be disenfranchised had they had to show identification when they voted, but yet there are other countries that require voter ID and still have free and fair elections. And I don't understand it. Whenever I talk to people who are Democrats about this, their answer is usually, this is not the hill I want to die on. So I'm so you feel the same way?
I don't give a shit about it.
This is the answer I always get, is I don't give a shit about this.
The other thing is, watch this. This is I'm going to make a bold prediction. The way that the electorate has changed, Trump caused the big reshaping of who votes for what party. And I don't think that other people have caught up to the degree to which it now disfavors Democrats. To the average person who hasn't heard anything, that woke up that morning wondering who the candidates were that rolled in, that guy's a Trump voter, most likely. Trump won that group.
You talking about didn't know anything?
Yeah.
Because he's more popular.
Yeah, or whatever. Just his vibes, it works better.
What do you think it was a miscalculation for Harris to not go on Joe Rogan?
Yeah,
and Theo
maybe.
Vaughn and PBD and all these other places that
I thought their media approach was pretty bad.
Okay. So
I think that more long form. I don't know if I would sign up for exactly the slate that Trump went through. But at least Rogan. 20 more caller daddies would have been a better idea.
Yeah, but my point is, the Rogan interview with Trump is the most viewed podcast of all time.
Yeah, I
don't believe you that didn't affect the election 1%. I think that was more than 1%.
Maybe.
And then after it came out, you saw YouTube was curtailing the search. It wasn't even in trending. YouTube took it out of trending, and YouTube did not allow you to search.
You think that there were people that weren't going to vote for him before, but were like, man, he really killed that Rogan, and they were like, now I will?
I do. And part of it was because of the argument that I just asked you about a second ago, which was he made a very interesting point about voter ID. And he's like, I don't really understand how, the voter ID argument has always been confusing to me. Whenever I talk to Democrats, they are always like, I don't want to die on this hill.
But I think they will change their stance on it, because it's all opportunistic. They only want you to have the highest turnout percentages because they believe that benefits them and increases the chances they're going to win the election. That's ceased to be true, and they haven't really changed things. And I mean, whatever. They would look like real flip-flopping wafflers if they were too fast about it. So it makes sense this would take a bit. But I doubt that this is something that they're going to go to the mat pushing anytime. You know, I think you're going to see them.
So would you
recede
be
from those
surprised
positions.
if they did go to the mat? Because I think they will. I think they will go to the mat because I think that there
That you
is a
shouldn't
separate
have
agenda.
to have an ID when you vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely surprise me if they made that a real centerpiece.
Have you seen the way they handle it right now? Like you go to vote in California and you even take your ID out and they freak out like it's a vampire with holy water. Like you don't show us that, sir. You don't have to show that. I came out of the.
I'd be surprised if
I
that
came
were
out of
true.
the. So I voted.
I've never voted in California, so I can't say.
I came out of the voting booth at Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play. That's where I voted.
Nice.
Come out of there, and someone asked me like, "Sir, who'd you vote for?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you I voted for, but I will tell you that I'm Hispanic and I showed them my ID. I'm going to go back and get in my car with my Glock. Why don't you figure out which side I voted for?" I mean, it's one of these things where it's like there are other countries with free or fair elections.
Do you keep a Glock in your car?
Huh? As far as these guys who are doing the comments, they need to believe that I do.
Everyone who thinks you're 5'8",
they need to believe I do.
I got that thing on me.
That's
that's nice.
I
Okay.
got that thing on me. Never get hold slipping. So yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where that's one. You know, I rarely get pushback from people on that one, which I thought was interesting. And I'll also tell you that the opposite is true, where had Roe versus Wade not been repealed, I wouldn't have cared. Like there was no part of me that was like, man, I really hope they repeal Roe versus Wade. Like I just never, it was not even a thought of when it happened. I was just like, where the fuck did this come from? It was just out of left field, you know? So, I mean, of course we all probably should have saw it coming when Trump gets 3 nominees to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But, I don't care. And I believe abortion's still available in 47 states in the union. Like, I don't know that, like, this wasn't something.
Number of abortions went up.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah. Yeah, the number of abortions went up. Yeah.
It did.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I just one of these things where, like, it wasn't enough to move the needle for me. To me, the thing that moved the needle was the inflation thing. Because to me, the thing that moved the needle was her saying she was going to raise taxes for people make more than $400,000 a year. I have too many people I work with that make more than $400,000 a year that fulfill way too many important roles in my life. Whether it be the guy who owns my podcast studio, the guy who does, like, there's so many different jobs where it's like if you try to cripple that segment of the population, it seems more egalitarian to take more of their money. But then when you see like dude, the reason we spend so much money at the end of the year, my business, because we want tax write-offs. We don't want to have to pay taxes on certain income that we have. When we do that, we give all that money to other businesses and employ other people. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's good.
Like that part of the tax code is good and it's massively misunderstood. So that was the only other thing.
Yeah, but what are you? That doesn't seem like a reason to not increase taxes. I would increase them more so that you have to do more of that.
Okay, that's an interesting concept.
I know. What do you mean? That seems to logically follow.
I like the money. It's just my opinion. I think the best place for money to be is in my hands and not the government's. That's just a fundamental difference in belief.
I don't want it to be in the government's hands. I want it to be in the hands of the other people in our society who are struggling. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the tax code, for those of you who don't understand, the whole way that you do write-offs as far as expenses is a great way to cause businesses to spend money on other businesses, which stimulates the economy.
It's good.
Yeah, I think that is a part of the tax code that we do get right in this country.
Yeah.
What was the other thing that, like, what?
But that's like whenever you're bringing up some of these things, and I'm like, I don't care. The only thing that I really care about
This is
is
my next question.
Egalitarian economic issues. You know, like we live in the richest society that's ever existed in the history of the planet, and the fact that we aren't equally or not, it doesn't have to be exactly equally, but I'd like to get closer. Sharing in this prosperity is fucked up. I think it's incredibly fucked up. I think the stories of people living in this city every day, the shit that they have to go through.
Sure.
Until recently, I was driving Uber pretty regularly. And people always think of the average Uber client as the times that they use Uber, which is like you're having a fun vacation in a new city. That's not the average Uber customer. The average Uber customer is someone who doesn't have a fucking car.
They don't have a car
because they can't afford one.
They just flipped a fucking kilo.
Yeah. They had me stop at the guy's house.
Yeah, they literally got a fucking brick in their backpack.
Yeah,
dropping it off, picking up cash, having
I can smell it, and I'm just trying to be chill.
TC, wait for them outside. They're down there on like Malcolm X Boulevard, like it's Kilman and Aldelia selling
And the
crack.
way that they have to live is fucked up. And if I don't mean like if it means that that your podcasting studio expands more slowly, like I don't even really think that would happen.
It's quite the opposite. If I spend money on my podcasting studio, then then I don't have to write that. Then I get that as a write-off.
Yeah.
Because it's a business expense.
The people that you were listing is like, you don't want them to have to pay higher taxes. I would like for them to pay higher taxes.
Okay, again, that's why I'm a conservative, you're a liberal. Is exactly
yeah. But I accept that I'm not going to win you over, but presumably there's people in the audience who might be persuadable and listen to all the points I'm making and saying, you know what, that guy's right.
So here's when I listen to you and Jake talk about these economic ideas, my first thought is Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek. Like if so many of these ideas would be achievable if we had 3D printed houses and like we're able to grow unlimited amounts of food, then what we could do is just worry about the social safety net for the people at the bottom. The problem that I think is lost here is that humanity needs incentive. And when humanity doesn't get incentive, it becomes depressed. It becomes ungrateful. And so when you take away, like for instance, if I had two choices.
Man, I think what makes people depressed and ungrateful is being fucking poor.
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't either, but it also motivates. If you completely take this away, if you get to the point where it's like you're like universal income, which by the way, we may get to a universal income, but the reason why we're going to get to a universal income is because artificial intelligence and robotics are so productive and have put so many people out of work that's the only thing we can do. You want a really great example of this? I recommend you read The Expanse by James S. A. Corey. Mm-hmm. In that whole thing, there's 44 billion people on planet Earth and 90% of them are unemployed. And there's, there's 40 billion people on Earth, 90% of them are unemployed. There's 4 billion people that live on the moon. And there's 800 million people that live in the asteroid belt, and there's 2 billion people that live on Mars. And that's the world that they were living. And
you got a memory where you're just carrying those numbers around. I love it
because it's my favorite book series of all time.
I'm so impressed.
In the book series,
that's what not doing drugs gets you.
In the book series, everyone in the asteroid belt and everyone in Mars is employed. They have full employment in the beginning of the book series because they're terraforming. There's so many things to do. Well, the people on Earth literally can do. There's nowhere for them to be employed, and so you end up with this like people living on what's called basic, and they're just they get fed X amount, they get X amount of pharmaceuticals, et cetera, et cetera. But the problem with that is like when you do that, you're taking the agency away from the individual. I just do. Here, I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm saying, and this is gonna sound maybe insane to some people. If I had a choice of having the ability to make the mechanisms to make money and to grow my business and scale it, or a $50 million lump sum, I know most people are gonna take the $50 million lump sum. I'm not. The adventure and the joy that it brings me to build a business from the ground up with my team, to be able to lead them and make money, that is so much more invigorating to me than a $50 million lump sum. And I know most people most people think I'd be insane for saying that, but that's the way I feel.
But what if you consider the case of someone who every ounce of enjoyment that you're talking about, you get out of that, they get out of making beautiful paintings that everyone who sees them says, these are so wonderful. It enriches my life in ways that I could never quantify economically.
Yeah.
To see these wonderful paintings.
Yeah.
But they haven't made one in 5 fucking years because they're spending all their time at the goddamn McDonald's serving people hamburgers.
What we're doing here is now we're stating, so like this isn't like I want to be a professional Madden player. Like that's, you want to know what my passion is?
Do that, dude. You should do that.
Yeah, like I'd love if I could do that, but I'm too old. There's no way I can't compete with those kids. But like I would, if it was following my passion, then that's what I would do. But what we have to understand is, as individuals, and this is again, there's going to be a fundamental difference in right versus left, is our worth to society is based on our utility, whereas and we're going to disagree on that.
You're right, yeah.
But like our worth to society. So for me, I only do
our worth is, our worth is imbued in us by the Creator.
No,
man.
I think we have I'm sorry, I'm going to say that word wrong.
I know what you're saying.
Indemnable rights endowed to us by our Creator, and we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but our value to society is based on our utility. Because as long as everyone lives by that mantra, that our value society is based on our utility, you end up with the wealthiest nation in history. That's where it comes from. And so for me, whenever I have people come to me
Maybe.
and they're like, I want to become wealthy, the only thing I tell them is you need to solve someone else's problem. When you think about a really great attorney, what is a really great attorney? A great attorney is not someone who litigates for you. A great attorney is not someone who teaches you how to use LegalZoom or gives you a bunch of cool documents or finds a tax shelter for you. A great attorney is someone who makes problems go away. Really great attorneys, the guys you pay $2,000 an hour to, are the ones who make think of Harvey Specter in Suits. Half the time his clients come and visit him and he just makes the problem disappear.
One of the great litigators of all time.
Right, exactly. But he makes the problems go away. They're not paying him to litigate though. They're paying like I have some friends that are attorneys and they have other guys who litigate. They don't want to do it. You pay an attorney to make problems go away. When you think of Wayne Huizenga, who's a billionaire, remember he owned Blockbuster Video, he owned Waste Management. Waste Management, like, there's no way you're going to tell me Wayne Huizenga woke up one day and was like, man, I need all these porta potties and all this caca and feces. I want to clean it up. This is my passion. That wasn't his passion. What he did though is he said, what can I do to make other people's problems go away? And when you do that, you increase your utility and you become outrageously wealthy. So like that again, someone who's homeless, like I work with homeless charities all the time. Do I think people who are indigent or people who are have run afoul of society, not afoul of society, I'm looking for a better word here. They just, for whatever reason, they found themselves in a homeless situation.
Yeah.
Because of drug use or whatever. Do I think that they have no value? Of course not. Of course, they have intrinsic value because they're human beings. And my empathy as a human being should make me want to alleviate suffering on their part. But if they want to function in society, they're going to have to solve someone else's problem. That's just it. Like, that's the only way it works. And people who can't solve
That's the way
problems,
it works here. It's not the only way it works in the world.
where else? I mean, how else? What other society do you see where they don't solve people's problems?
The Nordic countries.
Okay, even in the Nordic countries, someone has to solve the problems. You have a bunch of billionaires that are
Lots of people solve the problems, but for the people like Channel 5, the All Gas No Brakes, Andrew Callahan.
Yeah,
Andrew Callahan. I watched his thing.
Hilarious.
Yeah, he's great. He does a lot of very interesting shit. And Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia, it's like an open air drug market.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst places.
Like North
Vegas,
Vegas, up by like Maine and Las Vegas Boulevard and Martin Luther King.
And so he's going through there and just talking to the people, just what's going on with you, what's happening in your world. And one lady starts by being like, "Well, I'm fucking depressed because my mom died." Sure, okay, yeah. And starts talking about her history with her mom. And she's like, in spite of the things that my mom did to me, I am sad that we don't get to fucking use fentanyl together all the time like we used to. And the things that she's talking about that her mom did is that her mom was such a dope addict that whenever she was fucking 9 years old, she would fucking sell her daughter as a prostitute to guys so like that person is not going to found waste management.
No, agreed. But that person also,
they're fucked. When they're fucked, I would like for them to have a roof over their head.
We're going way back around. That person got the fentanyl because we had open borders. That's where the fentanyl came from. So that's another part of the problem.
Yeah, it only came because people want it. Like, if you close the borders, they would just find a way to make fentanyl here, or it would be replaced by a different opioid that was easier to make here. The demand is the economics, man. You should know this.
Yeah,
the demand is the thing that is, like, as long as people want to do drugs, they will.
I still do think there's a better way to regulate it than have like unregulated fentanyl going to people that coming over here from Mexico. I think that's frightening. By the way,
I'd be in favor of my life would be a lot more fun if we eliminated all fentanyl in this country.
Why? Oh, because you're driving Uber?
No, because I like drugs but don't like fentanyl.
Yeah.
And so I don't want them to be cut with fentanyl.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot. I've known a lot of people. I've heard stories of a lot of people dying from that. But yeah, that's a crazy thing. I think though, the problem is we're talking about the largesse of a society, but that largesse only exists because some people figured out a way to solve other people's problems. And that is, I mean, to me, that's the whole basis of economics, is people doing whatever they can to solve other people's problems. Like and we have an exchange of wealth because of that. Someone said in here, value is subjective. Value is not subjective. There's a value that each person can have, but the value at which, so for instance, if he thinks that his car's worth 400,000, I think his car's worth 50 grand, we don't trade his car. So in his mind, it's Schrodinger's cat. His car is still worth 400 grand, but to me, it's worth 50,000. Once we transact, the value is no longer subjective. If we transact at 200,000, then that means that in fact, that's the way the S&P 500 works. Whenever you look at the S&P 500 price, this is not a subjective number that comes from a computer. It is an actual last price transacted. That is the price. If you guys ever wonder what the price of the S&P 500 is at at the closing bell at 1 p.m. PST, 4 p.m. EST, at the closing bell, whenever the last transaction happened, that transaction now, by definition, is the price of the S&P 500. There is no subjectivity to it. It's totally objective. And so when I go back to what I said before about individuals, they can have value, but their utility to society is what makes society run. And whether or not they want to get above a certain level of subsistence, like basically they want to go from just living in Section 8 housing to like having their own home and then having maybe 2 cars and that kind of stuff, it is going to have to come through utility. And if it doesn't, my only issue with this is if we take away all incentive of people to work and just be like, hey man, listen, the government's going to give you a universal income and here's a PS5. I'm just like, dude, I've lived that life. When I got out of the military, I turned into a complete zombie and it's not fulfilling. It's what I'm doing now is like building a business and like helping my employees make enough money to feed their families is so much more fulfilling to me than that.
But I just think there's a big difference between the advice I would give to someone who's asking me, how do I find fulfillment, and the minimum standard I think that we should accept. Like, it's their lives, like if they want to be depressed and non-productive and whatever, like.
So this is a libertarian argument. My only problem with that is that that works until it hurts someone else.
Yeah, okay.
You have the right to swing your hands around in a circle until but your right ends at my nose.
Definitely.
Right. And so that's the only problem is like when it hurts someone else. I do think people.
I'm still saying we should enforce all the laws. If you commit an assault, go to jail.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that we can live in a society. Well, we can, like I said before, in Star Trek, we can. In Gene Roddenberry's.
I mean, I'm just like, if we just adopted all of the best policies currently being practiced in Northern Europe right now, that I'm happy.
Yeah, but you do understand that like there's billionaires like leaving those Scandinavian countries. Wealthy people are leaving those Scandinavian countries as fast as they can because the taxation is outrageous. Like it's basically turning into Atlas Shrugged over there.
I don't think. I mean, whatever effect that these billionaires that are supposedly leaving is having, it's not hurting them. Their economies are growing just as fast or faster than ours. They're enjoying an incredibly high standard of living, and I don't know. Like, dude, if you made it so that America, like, they're still gonna fucking live in New York City. Like, of course they are. You think people are gonna leave Los Angeles because of our fucking tax rates?
Well, they have. Well, the rate
I'm
at
sure
which
that some people have.
The rate at
There's
which
still
Texas,
a lot
the
of
rate at which
billionaires
Texas
in Los Angeles.
The rate at which Texas is growing in comparison to California is pretty phenomenally different. There are people.
I think that has everything to do with the terrible, terrible mistakes in governance they make around housing policy.
Sure, I also think it has to do with taxation, dude. Do you understand? You make $500,000 a year. You're paying $65,000 in taxes to the state government in California, and then you move over to Nevada, they're like not even an hour and 15 minutes away, and it's at zero. That's a big number, man.
It's an hour and 15 minutes away from the ocean and into the desert.
What do you mean?
Been to both places. I would not. Just you and I, the thing that we are most diametrically opposed on, the one issue that we disagree by far the
You
most.
don't live by a beach here.
Is the wonderful beauty of Los Angeles, California. If I could live anywhere in America,
No, it's beautiful. No, I agree with you.
And you hate it
No,
so much.
I don't hate Los Angeles. Los Angeles to me is if I had a son who was 6'9" with a 42-inch vertical telling me he doesn't want to play basketball. He'd rather sell dope. It's not that I hate it. It's just that it's fucking disappointing. It's such a disappointing place.
No,
you go there
beautiful
and
perfect. I wouldn't change a thing.
The nightlife is disappointing.
I'm positive
the traffic is disappointing.
We
the
have
people
different
are
Los Angeleses. Whatever. We just like to do different stuff.
I'm in LA 12 times a year. I'm going to be there next week, and I go to the sickest parties and I have a great time. And as soon as I'm done, I talk to my guy friends who live there, and their dating lives are absolute chaos. And just there's the flake rate from women there is outrageously high. The taxation is absurd, and the places they go, like literally, you are better off being a homeless person, like walking around doing anything you want, than just being a law-abiding citizen. You are a homeless person pissing on the street in Beverly Hills. You have a better chance of like getting away with it than you do being a fucking person who's double parked. It's crazy, dude. That city, the way they handle their homeless situation is absurd. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, whatever. I think that they should make it so that there's enough houses that all of them can have roofs over their heads.
Okay, so there's that discussion too, and here's my counter to that. Let's just say you find some empty land in Wyoming, you find some empty land in Colorado, you find some empty. Oh, we got a ton of it in Nevada, man. We'll put you right next to a lake, and we'll put a bunch of solar panels right next to it, and the whole thing will be self-sustaining, and we'll build a bunch of crypto mining places right underneath and get you some income. Whatever you need to do. If you did that, those people would go right back to Santa Monica. They would leave that place and they would go right back to Santa Monica and set up tents
Yeah, definitely.
right up near the beach, and they would be in the same situation.
Make more
they were
houses in
before.
Santa Monica then.
There's no room in Santa Monica.
There's plenty of room.
I look, my uncle, I have a
You gotta
cousin.
knock down a couple of the things they have there, build something taller.
I have a cousin right now, super successful. He's a doctor, he's an MD, and he was very much on the other side of this thing, very much liberal Democrat. And when he saw that there were drug dealers coming up and just talking to his children, and the police were doing absolutely nothing about it, instead of fighting it, he just moved to Laguna Beach. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. He sounds like kind of a pussy. The fucking drug dealer's talking to my kids. I'm not, officer, solve your own fucking problems, man. You think someone's going to respect you because the fucking laws stand up, but they don't respect you. They respect the law.
Listen, man, they respect a gun. That's what they respect. And this state does that state doesn't like those.
1000%.
That state doesn't like those either, man.
Yeah, it's still America though.
Let me add a couple things. The thing where Donald Trump said he's going to have like CCW reciprocity laws in different states. Have you seen this?
No.
So basically, the way it works between Texas and Nevada is if you have a CCW in Nevada, or I'm sorry, in Florida and Nevada, if you have a CCW in Florida, Nevada recognizes it. Certain states have what's called reciprocity. Have you never heard of this before?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think
sure.
I think Trump wants it for all 50 states. I don't know what how you feel about that.
Don't care.
Don't care. Okay. The social media thing, if he actually did cause these social media agencies to have an actual appeals process. That's funny. It just gave a thumbs down. They had an actual appeals process.
When is that popping up?
So it sees a thumb. It sees what it thinks is a thumb, and then it's a weird thing on Zoom, I think.
Okay.
I think Zoom does it. Yeah, it's a weird like emoji thing that pops up. So the idea that he would hold social media account up. So like for instance, I know that I lost my monetization on my YouTube that you guys are watching right now. I lost it because of my association with Justin Waller, Andrew Tate, Rollo Tomasi, and Myron Gaines. I know that's why I lost it. When I asked YouTube for an explanation why they demonetized me, they gave me nothing. They got rid of my monetization for absolutely nothing. And everyone I just mentioned, they got rid of their monetization and got rid of Justin Waller's account. I did not break terms of service, but my association with other people caused me to be demonetized. That's absolutely what happened. And so I do believe that the government should hold them accountable because the First Amendment, like at the point at which YouTube is, it should be regulated by like a utility. It can still be a private company, but at some point, you curtailing my freedom of speech because I said something that you don't like or because of my association with other people. Remember, it is freedom of press and freedom of assembly. I should be allowed to interview anyone I choose on my YouTube channel, and I should not be demonetized for it. And that's exactly what happened to me. I want a clear explanation in writing from that social media agency. And if I choose to obey what they say, I want my monetization reinstated immediately. This is what happens in the legal justice system. I do my probation, I pay my fine, and then I am pay my restitution, and then I am now back to being a normal, law-abiding member of society. Social media companies should be forced to do the same thing. That's my belief.
Yeah. So I agree with you, and I'd like to get to a point of agreement, but just because I like stirring it up. Whenever you talk about like your right to assembly, it's just with retains the government action. It's the government's not stopping you from assembling whenever private company YouTube chooses to do whatever.
Okay, so while I do understand that it's not a function of government for them,
I'm not
to
a
do
lawyer.
That, right. It's not a function of government to do so. Like an interpretation might be if YouTube is the predominant way for us to get that message out, then you could, I don't know what's doing this at this point. It's doing the thumbs down thing. I don't understand what's happening here. But if like what I'm saying is why Ma Bell got split apart. Like if you have antitrust things, obviously there are other ways of getting your news besides YouTube. But if one of the biggest things that I thought, the whole Andrew Tate situation, I think Andrew Tate should actually take out a class action or take an antitrust lawsuit out against all these companies that took his account away in the same hour, because it shows clear collusion for what he did. Meaning my issue was he had his account taken down on Instagram. And even if you think he's a despicable person and he's guilty of everything that apparently he's been accused of, although I don't know if you guys watched the news later, a bunch of the evidence has now been thrown out by a tribunal has happened in Romania, and several of the witnesses that the prosecution was calling have been thrown out, and some of the evidence that the prosecution was used has been thrown out. The prosecutor has 5 days to respond or drop the charges.
I'm sure that you follow the case a lot closer than me. So if we start having a discussion about the facts, it's not going to vindicate me as a real expert. But isn't he basically just accused of acting in the way that he was constantly advocating that everyone should act all the time?
No. So the problem
He's
is
carrying out his beliefs.
So the problem is
I think he did it.
Okay. So the problem is this: one of the charges he has. I didn't want to go down this path, but like the lover boy method. Okay. So there's another survey. Something like when women were asked how many times have you been lied to by a man, where the man said he wanted a long-term commitment and actually didn't want a long-term commitment. It was something like 91% of women said yes, and 71% of men admitted to it. So what I just described is now illegal. Should you go to jail for that? Think about all the sailors who came on shore in San Diego or in New York during ship week and went and talked to some girl and said, "Yeah, baby, I want to get married," just so they could get some ass. They should go to jail for that?
Nah, but I doubt that.
I'll literally show you in the writing. It's called lover boy method. That is one of the charges against Andrew Tate, a felony charge against him.
Yeah, I don't want to
go to jail for that.
defend the entirety of the Romanian justice system, but
this is not even debatable. This is not. I'm sorry. What we're talking about is debatable, but it's not debatable that it's a charge. It is a charge. Like it is clearly a charge. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one I want to go over is.
But just broadly, my understanding is accused of sex trafficking, and if I can hear him in my head being like, if you can make money off one of them dumb bitches, you got to do it. I don't
remember him saying that specifically. But the other part is
it was episode 4.
The other part is the secondary charges were in August of 2022, at which point he was making $20 million a month on The Real World, and I'm supposed to believe that he was extorting these women and holding them against their will for $300 on TikTok. I do not believe that. I do not believe that Warren Buffett robbed a 7-Eleven. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And on top of the fact that there is not one single female,
he might not be doing it for the money. He seems to have some complicated feelings about women.
Again, I totally understand. I didn't want to go down this path too long because I don't know all the answers. What I'm saying is I can't. It's been almost 3 years, and I keep waiting for concrete evidence, and I've seen none. All I've seen is BBC articles that seem to be refuted one after another, and Vice basically stepping on their own dick, trying to interview him. I don't know if you saw the whole thing where Vice interviews him. He takes the entire interview. He's secretly recording it. He posts the entire interview, and then Vice the next day posts their version of the interview, and they cut out anything that made him look good. And it made Vice look absolutely horrible when they did that. And so that's the problem that I have.
Sure.
Let's just say he's guilty or innocent for Schrodinger's verdict at this point. He's guilty or innocent. My point is the fact that every one of these social media agencies and his Uber and his Lyft and his Postmates all deleted their accounts for him in the same hour.
Yeah.
That is a level of collusion that is just indescribable. What I'm saying is, if
it
all of these
strongly suggests a meeting somewhere where all the people who control all of the internet services are just deciding who does and does not.
How does that not terrify people?
Yeah, no, it seems bad. And to go back,
even if he's guilty, it's terrifying that you could do something like that to anyone. And they didn't do it to him. I talked to an executive at Instagram about this once. He said, we didn't do it to him because he was wrong. We did it to him because he was popular. We did it to him because he had fooled our algorithms. That whole thing where you get a bunch of affiliates to post your content and then they affiliate back to your program, and meanwhile the affiliate gets paid and you become more popular. He was the first guy to really exploit that whole thing in the system, and he put egg all over TikTok's face. You want to get your TikTok taken down right now? It's very simple. Show any images of Andrew Tate. Your stuff is gone super quick. You're going to be ratio. You'll be lucky to get 50 views a video.
Yeah, this kind of ties back into the thing you were talking about your account getting banned or demonetized because of your association with those guys. So I've definitely never dealt with anything associated with that. But whenever I was driving Uber and Lyft, I had my Lyft account suspended because someone said that I was driving
I
drunk.
remember this. I remember this on IGB. Yeah.
I do not drink. I have
course.
never at any point drank, and I certainly wasn't drunk when I was driving them around. You know, if you don't believe me on that, I mean, whatever. I guess if you don't believe me on that, then you probably just think I'd be willing to make up more things. But,
Yeah.
I will just say, you know, like among the rides I gave that day, there was 4 rides at the time that I got banned that I'd given that day. And one of them was like a mom taking the kid, her and her kid, to the zoo, and then she sent me a $5 tip. And then the next ride, I believe, is the one that reported me. Is there any fucking circumstance under which I'd be like, just the mom taking her kid to the zoo is like, yeah, this guy gets $5, and then in the next person, I'm visibly drunk? I didn't say anything to this, but whatever. Anyways,
Of course, I know you well enough to know that this didn't happen.
Yeah.
But there's a video right now where the same guy, the content creator, makes all these content about me. He said that my face was swollen because I drink too much beer. And of course, you know how absurd this is.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I've never been drunk. Not one day in my entire life. On 3 occasions in my entire life, I've had 2 drinks in one night, and it was disgusting. I discussed this with my mom today. I don't think that I have the enzymes in my body to break down alcohol. So that's the reason why I've just never started to drink. I have never smoked marijuana. I have never. Not one time have I smoked marijuana. I have never tried any drug.
You
in
talk
my
so
entire
fast,
life.
I think that your body must produce something
Yeah,
naturally.
of course. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's I mean, there's a lot of reports that Trump does a lot of stimulants.
Yeah.
But in my heart of hearts, I believe that he's just built that way.
Oh, I'm reading that Blitz book. You know, the one about the drugs that the Nazis were on. Have you seen that book?
No,
It's a book that basically it goes over all the amphetamines that the Nazis were on.
Yeah, I heard Hitler was
I'm
coked up
super
constantly.
excited to read this book. Yeah.
Yeah, what
It's like
have you
next on my
found
list.
anything out? Okay.
No, I haven't started it
okay,
yet.
okay.
Right now, I'm reading the Blind Watchmaker by Richard Dawkins.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, this thing where I was making a good amount of my income doing this, you know, the Uber and Lyft stuff, and then someone is able to just come in, say that I'm drunk, my account suspended, and I believe the upshot of why this all happened is they get the ride comped.
Yeah.
You know, their fucking $15 goes back in their
Yes.
pocket.
That's why they do.
And I can't make a living. And I mean, whatever. I had Uber. I continued to make rides there. That did not, thankfully, impact. But you know, if someone on Uber had decided to pull the same trick, then you know, gonna have a tough time making the house payment. And the process for that was insane. Like they're coming out with, "Don't contact us. We'll contact you soon." That was the only word they would use. Never like an hour or day or time. Just soon, you'll be getting an email with a full report. You know, we're gonna have this big investigation. Get to the bottom of it. You'll get the email. I never got the email at any point. I waited. God, it was probably 2 months. Got on to the chat, you know, and said, "Hey, this is what happened." And then the person was just clearly with not like enough time for them to have looked into it, was just like, "All right, well, we're going to give you a warning." And I'm like, so fucked up you would give me a warning, you know? Like, I didn't do anything. And so if you're not going to take to the time to investigate whether or not I did and just be like, we should ding him anyways, that's fucked up. But also, what if I was a fucking drunk who was taking people
They just
around?
gave him a
They
warning.
made no effort. Like,
Yeah.
someone made a very serious allegation against me, and I'm shocked that they think the legal system works in such a way that they're not massively liable. If someone, and I'm sure that every day people do, gets killed by a drunk Lyft driver, and they find this message where someone else was accused of being a drunk Lyft driver, and the most that Lyft did was wait a month and then be like, "All right, but don't do it again." Like, that's done. Like, it ceases to be a company. The litigation that would bring against them.
It goes back to my point. Like, this is an app. It's not a social media app that allows you to make a living, and then people's allegations towards you then cause you to lose that ability to make a living. And the appeal process, well, in this case, there was no appeal process. They just gave you a warning. Like, for me, it's like the reason why the wheels of justice are slow in the United States is because we have to. You have a day in court. There's no you know in other countries like you can accuse people of crimes and then never face them in open court. In the United States, you have to. This is, by the way, one of the reasons why sexual assault is so drastically underreported in this country. I know a lot of people are going to be angry at me for saying this, but it is true. Most of the time when a woman gets sexually assaulted, she does not report it to the police officer. I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy. About 5% of the time, women do report sexual assault and they're lying about it. That does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. There's an Amber Heard. You and I, actually, I want to talk about the Lindsey Hill situation. I absolutely think Trevor Bauer's innocent. I know you thought that you think Lindsey Hill's telling the truth.
Yeah. I mean, you know, whatever.
You've seen the video. Like, there's literally a video of her with no marks on her face and like little text messages of her bragging about how much money she was getting out of this dude. You really think she's innocent?
Yeah, I remember. It's been a while. I'm not like you. I don't live a clean lifestyle, and it's impacted my memory greatly. There was a point last year where I was pretty boned up on the case, and I was aware of the refutations to these various things.
Yeah.
But you know, I'll just concede it now.
No, it's fine.
I don't remember. I don't have a clear enough recall.
Do you think Amber Heard was punched by Johnny Depp, or do you think she made that up?
I mean, I definitely don't think she shat in the bed.
You don't think she shit in the bed?
I think the dog shat in the bed, and that he blamed it on her.
Okay, but do you think? But we're also the thing was that he physically abused her, and then it turned out in open court that didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, you tell me the fucking drunk Pirates of the Caribbean guy doesn't hit women. I don't know. I think he probably does.
Yeah, but we can't. That's not a system. You can't have a legal system based on that. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not the jury.
Aziz Ansari.
I'm just the guy.
Aziz Ansari. He takes that girl home. She gives him a blowjob.
Yeah,
and then the next day
I thought
writes
he got a bad rap there, no doubt.
Okay, so my point is, just so we're all on the same page, some women absolutely do falsely accuse men of things for several reasons. One of them would be borderline personality disorder. And the second one that I've actually seen with some of my clients is a girl goes home with a guy, and then the girl's boyfriend finds out she went home with him, and her only recourse is to say that she was taken advantage of. She has no intention of filing a sexual assault report, and he forces her to do so. He's like, so file a report or I'm leaving you. And then she goes off and does that. I have seen that happen on a few occasions. So in those cases, you're right. There are false reports. But I live in Las Vegas, and I've seen women who get raped frequently, and they said, I can't report it. I actually had a girl come on there and say her boyfriend would leave her if she did it. So I know we're going to have a big disagreement on that. And I know a lot of the red pill guys are like, they don't agree with me on this. I can tell you emphatically, it's like 1 out of every 7 grapes end up getting reported.
The way that people in the sphere fixate on these cases is troubling.
What do you mean?
Like, you just in a well-balanced life, I don't think you would care that much about what happened between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Well, I would care because I'm a person in the spotlight who dates women, and I don't want to be subject to. We all talked about the whole marriage thing. I don't want to be subject to someone making allegations against me that aren't true. And the idea that
I can recall times whenever you dealt with people who were just making shit up about you.
Yeah, not about sexual assault, but yes, but about other things that weren't true. For sure. And that because of that whole situation,
you swim in those BPD waters, man.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, again, most women do not have borderline personality disorder, but a woman who has borderline personality disorder could feel so hurt by you that in her mind the nuclear option seems reasonable. The nuclear optional for a woman is to accuse a man of grape.
The incidence of borderline personality disorder has to be much higher amongst Instagram models than the regular population.
Well, that's probably the selection bias. It's probably one of the reasons they become Instagram models. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I think so.
Because they would get validation. That's the thing. Borderline personality disorder, it centers around this concept of abandonment. So she feels abandonment. So her necessity for validation is like this endless pit. And so the way to fill the endless pit of validation is validation through her boyfriend, and then validation from attention from other men. And then social media now allows her in infinite amounts of supply, of BPD supply that she can get in order to feed her endless necessity for validation.
Yeah, but I got us off track of the lift point was just, having this situation where nameless, faceless corporation that controls my income is making decisions that I have no ability to register input on was terrifying. But I guess I just, to some degree, I admire your optimism that anyone's ever going to fucking do anything about this. I don't think that Trump's going to fix it. I don't think there's a politician out there. I think
the reason why
the hell world is upon us.
The reason why I think that's the case is because that's why Elon bought Twitter in part was because of this whole issue. Like because of what he could,
but he's kicked off people that he doesn't like left and right.
Right, but I mean, and so before them they were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Right, but what I'm saying is if enough people on that side find this to be a strong enough point, they're going to try to do something about it. I think there's enough momentum behind this idea to make it work. And then people like me who are not that interested in politics, you make me extremely interested in politics because this has to do with my living. Social media apps should not have the right to ad hoc deny my ability to make money. They shouldn't, and that's just my belief. And so the government should have. And again, if they want to, if
it's
they
American
want to
capitalism, brother.
But if they want to disqualify, American capitalism also does not include discrimination. If you can't discriminate me based on my race or my religion, or you can't discriminate me because of my gender or my age, then a social media company should not be able to. Because in a way, we are in a form of employment, a contractual agreement between us. They should not be able to discriminate against me because of my political affiliation.
Not being able to discriminate against race, like you look at how that ended up getting enshrined. I just don't see a second movement coming for.
Oh, you're talking about like
YouTubers?
YouTubers out there. Maybe it's not YouTubers, but I do think it's enough people and there's enough
freedom
money.
Rides for the YouTubers.
Enough people and there's enough money behind it to where I do think that there could be something to this. And if there is,
I think the money's within the pockets of the YouTube.
What do you mean? Oh yeah, you mean
the people that want to retain their right to ban you whenever they feel like it.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting.
That's the moneyed side. That's the side that's going to win every time.
Except one. Elon is not going to do that. Elon would be on the side of what Trump was saying there.
Man, I think that this is where I get into the you're too smart a salesman to not recognize the other salesman. I don't think he actually cares about any of those things.
Again, you say that, but remember, he had his Twitter taken away. Like he's literally talking about changing a policy that affected him personally. So even if you think he's a narcissistic psychopath.
You're talking about Trump?
I'm talking about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Even if you believe he is a narcissistic
Elon,
psychopath.
Sure.
Even if you believe he's a psychopath, this personally affected him
which is the
after
only
January
time you care about
6th,
anything.
which is the reason why he would do this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I do think there's enough momentum and enough vitriol on his side to actually make something like this happen. And if it does happen, it directly affects me and my ability to make money and my employees' ability to feed their family. So I would very much be in favor of it.
Yeah, and the chances of anything happening are humongously higher than if Kamala got elected.
Yeah, of course. Well, Kamala was like, I don't like what these people are saying on these social media apps. Who are the ones who are regulating them? Those were her words exactly. Like, why does anyone need to regulate them? Like, that's my point. Now, to a certain extent, like if you go on Rumble, it's very clear. Like Rumble, it's anything goes. If we were on Rumble right now, the amount of I don't even want to say the words because we can't even say these words on YouTube. But like the amount of comments that you would see like that, I don't agree with those people. You know, the flat earthers basically live on Rumble now, but I also don't think they should be banned. I don't think they should be banned.
There's some things you think that people should be banned for, right?
Be what?
There's some things that people should be banned for.
Libel and defamation, yeah. Defamation and libel, I agree. But like if you don't believe that
what if you just got on every day and said, I want to see the extermination of, whatever race?
Yeah, I think you can do that. No, here's the thing.
You think you can do that? I'm against that.
Stop. Listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. But here's what I'm saying here. I do debates against the people, because we're on YouTube, I do debates against the people who think that whole really bad thing that happened in 1939 to 1944 with the people in the place where they were being put in the thing and not being people anymore. That thing that happened, I debate against people who don't think that thing happened. Okay? But I don't think they should be deplatformed for saying what they're saying. And that's
depends on the details. If they're saying that we should definitely do that again.
I don't think it should be deplatformed. I really don't think it should be deplatformed for that. I know we're going to have a horror, because here's the reason why, TC. Here's the reason why. I believe in natural selection. I believe that gravity is real. I believe in Newtonian physics. If a guy comes up and he's a political candidate and he goes out on TV and he starts saying all this stuff that I agree with, I'm like, hey man, that sounds really great. And then he explains to me that he thinks evolution is fake and that the earth is flat. Then I'm like, okay, good. The freedom of speech he had to say the stupid thing he just said allows me to now have more information so that I don't vote for him. You understand what I'm saying? I think freedom of speech is not just about good, fun, fuzzy, happy speech. It's also about stupid ideas and people exposing themselves, which is why I am very much in favor of freedom of speech and against any kind of censorship, especially on social media apps. Now, if you want to, in your terms of service, make certain statements that if you talk about X, Y, or Z, we're going to take your account away, I'm fine. But when it happens, you have to explain that to me. You can't do what YouTube did to me and say, you've been demonetized for some sort of ethereal thing, and in order for you to get your account back, you need to fix your account. And when I ask them how to fix my account, I get no instruction from them. That's not okay.
Yeah, I think it's really fucked up what happened to you. No doubt. But whenever, to the bit about, we should let people say these bad ideas so people can see that they're bad ideas. It does cut directly against what we were saying earlier about the guy who was spreading the word about you being 5'8" instead of 6'1".
Yeah, but I don't think you should be deplatformed for it.
I mean, you said in certain situations of libel that they should be deplatformed.
Well,
right?
that's not libel. Like, that can't prove damages if he thinks I'm 5'8". If he says I'm 5'8", it actually helps me.
Yeah,
like that's not. I mean, you could say, well, because he actually did make a video saying that I wasn't a captain in the Air Force. But that actually, I could probably sue him for that, but I would never do so because
we agree though that there's something about like giving these topics attention. Even if you made a video where you're like taking the strongest, I guess you don't want me to use the word.
Yeah.
People who say the thing in the 30s didn't happen.
Yeah.
And like just like if you like what you're saying is that you want to have this free exchange of ideas, and I guess in theory I also deeply love the free exchange of ideas. But if it's about like certain things that we should all just like good society should agree that is off topic and like becomes a problem, who's going to pick out what those topics are? I get it, but like I don't think you can just escape the whole thing. I don't think that the best way forward is to just dispense with and just say that all topics are on the map, are on the menu because you can just argue against them. Because if you are arguing about it, then you're drawing attention towards it. I think you're going to end up with way more people who are in favor of extermination of large groups of people if you've just got open debates about whether or not it's a good idea happening all the time.
You are deplatformed now for having that opinion, and there's still an uprising of people who believe that.
Yeah, and I think it'd be worse. I don't
think it would be worse. Okay. Listen, when marijuana was legalized in this country, I heard people who are pro cannabis saying, man, finally now like 95% of people are going to start smoking. The number of people who smoke marijuana has barely increased. I don't even know if it's increased at all since the legalization of marijuana. No, I don't think they... I know
the stats say that, but every single person in my life disproves that.
Okay, maybe. But
my fucking mom has tried weed
selection.
The lady that sent me to kid jail.
I don't know hardly any of my friends smoke marijuana. I hardly know anyone who smokes it. That's the difference. So like my brother does, but like that's about it. My point is the idea that because these ideas are allowed, because if they're not on YouTube, they can be on Rumble, right? And the reason why Rumble is having a hard time, and they're probably going to have a hard time, is because even though they allow for this free exchange of ideas, sponsors don't want anything to do with them. Same thing that happened with Twitter.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why Twitter's lost 70-80% of its value is not because people were leaving, more so than it was that a lot of sponsors didn't want to continue to give money to Twitter. And I'm going to keep calling it Twitter because when you say X, nobody has any idea what you're talking about. When I say X, literally that is a variable in algebra. Like it's just not a good idea to call it X. It was just not a good call there. Anyway, every girl I meet in Vegas smokes weed. That's pretty funny. All right. Cool. Well, dude, we had a lot of people stay with us the entire 3 hours.
That's awesome.
That's really good.
Yeah, man. Always love talking to you.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. I haven't posted anything in a long time.
Okay.
If you want to see videos of me jet skiing, it's out there. I think it's just TC Fleming or something. I don't know.
Do you have a link to your to IJB on your Instagram?
No, I don't think so.
You should probably put one there because I was gonna put a link to your IG in the description so that people could go there and have a discussion. But
cool. Yeah. I'll add one.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Is there anything else that's new in your life? What's going on?
Man, just thriving. Happy about looking forward to Thanksgiving. Moana 2's out.
Nice. And we got a couple more months in Grand Theft Auto 6 and all of our lives of our lives change.
Eddie's going to be a special time for everyone.
I can't have you. I was talking to all my other friends that are coaches of like, you guys do understand next fall we're all going bankrupt, right? You understand that? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, guys, Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out. I was like, that's not that big of a deal. It's like, no, you don't understand. We're all
Amongst
going bankrupt.
all of your client base.
All of our clients, all your FBA clients, all your fucking self-help clients, all your fitness clients, they're all going to be playing GTA 6 for like 2 years. We're going back to COVID as soon as GTA 6 comes out.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Dude, I'm telling you, dude.
The
I'm not
global
gonna lie,
pandemic.
dude,
Hey, I want to be at work, but you
bro,
know, the doctor said,
the pandemic was like,
Fauci told me.
right? I'm going to snitch on myself a little bit. The wildest parties I've ever been into my entire life were in 2020. The wildest parties. You would go out in Vegas.
Just the real dancing at the end of the world feel.
No, it wasn't even like that. It was like we would go and somebody would have a mansion. Some rich dude would have a mansion. He's like bored out of his mind. He has some 10-bedroom house up in Dragon Ridge or Tamayasu, some of these neighborhoods in Vegas. And he would say, hey, and I'd be like, hey man, can we throw a photo shoot at your house? And then maybe have I'll just bring like 30, 40 girls. And then afterwards we'll have a party. He's like, yeah, fuck yeah, do it. Give me the house for free. We'd show up, have all the girls come by, and no girls would say no to us. TC, they had nothing to do. And they weren't allowed to go anywhere. And we were saying, do you want to come to a mansion party during the middle of the pandemic? It was madness. I have photos. I was like 50, 60 girls would show up to every one of these parties. I've never been to greater parties in my life than during the pandemic. Those are the wildest times I've ever seen, man.
It sounds wonderful.
Yes, it was great. All right, man. Very cool, man. Guys, please make sure you go check out IJB. One other thing, if you guys are interested, we are offering still the off-market dating system, the program that we just made, the $3 live workshop that we just did, our first mid-ticket offer. If you guys want to check that out, go to school.com/Men of Action, or just go to school.com and look up Men of Action. When you go there, you guys can purchase the mid-ticket offer that we have there, the off-brand dating system. If you guys have been getting destroyed by dating apps, like a lot of people are today, dating apps, the top 10% of men get 16 times as many matches as the average man. The top 10% of men get 16 times as many matches. And so if you guys want to learn about that, you can. And guys, also, if you want to join our free school group, I got bad news. It's not free anymore unless you guys are already in it. It's going to be $5 a month going forward. And with that $5 a month, we're actually going to start putting courses in there. And I'm going to be doing a live stream Q&A every month in there. All of that for $5 a month, along with 200 video testimonials, Instagram testimonials, the book list, 3 different free courses. All of that stuff is going to be in there for free. You guys, for free, for $5 a month, you guys can go check that out. I'm sorry, getting used to this. We had a free group for like 3 years, but we had to get rid of so many people who weren't posting that. That's why we're changed to do this. And also because of Hamza, is that his name? Ahmad. Oh God. Ahmad Ghazi. Is that his name? You know what I'm talking about?
Hamza rings a bell, but
not Hamza, the Ghazi dude. Yeah, him. He's on school doing that, and also because of Alex Hormozy. So anyway, if you guys are interested in that, go to Men of Action. Go to school.com and check out Men of Action and make sure you sign up for our whole thing. And also a couple things coming up on the 30th. I'm doing.
Have you tried telling them just to be hotter?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. We just say be hotter. That'll do it. We're going to. On the 30th, I'm hosting a charity for orphanages in San Diego, the Teddy Ball. On the 5th, I'm hosting a charity for underprivileged children, the Midnight Mission, Babes in Toyland in Los Angeles. And on the 12th of December, we're going to be hosting another Babes in Toyland in Las Vegas for Monday's Dark. If you guys are interested in coming into any of those, let me know. And Owen Cook, RSD Tyler, and myself are going to be hosting a boot camp from the 30th of December until January 4th in Las Vegas. If you guys are interested in that, we'll let you know about it, but you have to be a member of Men of Action in order to come to that boot camp. So guys, love it. Thank you guys for checking us out. Man, this has been incredible. IJB is It's Just Banter. If you guys want to look up It's Just Banter on Apple Podcasts, you can listen to him and Jake Kemp. They have a really, really funny podcast, very entertaining to listen to, especially if you guys are from Dallas and you're into Dallas sports. This is also a really, really great show to listen to. Beautiful. Love it. All right, man. Oh, wait, I just want to be that when you first started. I stopped getting emails. That's funny, pretty funny. All right, guys. Talk to you guys soon. We'll get out of here and let's take care, guys. Make sure you follow TC.